From the Southeast Asian capital city of the Philippine Islands, 7,107 islands, I think it is, Manila in the Philippines, I'm Art Bell, and this is Coast to Coast AM. It is my honor, indeed my privilege, to be escorting you through the weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and an interesting weekend it's going to be. As a matter of fact, in the next hour, we're going to be speaking with Simeon Hine, who is a crop circle expert, and I guess he got his expertise together with Scott Flansburgh. We've interviewed Scott before. Scott is the human calculator, and I guess there's a numerical value to crop circles, and we put that together with the human calculator, and I think they came up with some extremely interesting, confusing results. But I wanted to begin the program right now with something a little bit different. And I tried to do this last week, and it didn't work out because I didn't have my wife's microphone open. But if you'll go to the coasttocoastam.com website right now, on the front page, there is a photograph of a creature. Now, it's a creature here in the Philippines. I have no idea what this particular photograph is of, but it is damn well big. It really is big. Whatever this is gigantic. I mean, if you compare it to the homes, the huts there, and the trees, and you realize the distance at which we're seeing this object as compared to those objects, it's obvious this thing is monstrous. I have no idea what it is. But here's what I do know. About, 2 weeks ago, I guess, my wife and I were talking. We had a long talk. Sat in the living room and had a long talk. And we were talking about myths and things, and she started telling me about this creature called an aswang. Aswang, I think that's it. Is that correct?
Yes, aswang.
Aswang. Okay, that's my wife. That's Irene. I call her Aaron, but her real name is Irene. It's Airyn now. This thing, I said no. Come on, it's a myth. It's not real. And you said what?
I said it's true because I do believe in that.
You do believe in it?
Yes, I haven't seen, but I believe.
You haven't seen, but you believe. But you did have an experience with it, though, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, this experience had something to do with a neighbor of yours. You come from a province on Mindanao, right?
Yeah, but that was happened in Cagayan. That's not a province. It is a city.
But still in Mindanao.
Yeah, but still in Mindanao.
Okay. So this was a next door neighbor of yours?
Yeah, an old lady.
An old lady.
Yeah.
Aswang, I've read now, many times are old ladies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's true. All right, so what happened is somehow the water, you were sharing water with this old lady, and then
yes.
Then you had to cut off the water for some reason?
Because our water bill is already big, so I don't know. My sister said maybe they only put waste the water, so they cut off the water and pull out the hose.
The hose?
Yeah, the hose.
All right, so she got angry then, and you knew her to be an aswang? Did you know that?
Yeah.
You knew she was aswang?
Yeah, all of us know.
All right, so then a human can turn into an aswang at night, is that right?
Yes.
And then it's half human and half
half human, half aswang, but they have a big wings, so we can really hear her wings.
So after you cut off the water, she would appear every night over your home and beat her wings on your roof?
Yeah, it started from 10 p.m. until 2 a.m.
10 at night to 2 in the morning. For how long?
Yeah. A month.
A month. So that just scared the heck out of you.
All of us.
All of you, huh? All right, so that's aswang. And aswang is said to... Also, you mentioned something to me about aswang goes after...
Babies.
Babies. Now, that means even babies still in the womb.
Yes.
Really? And it eats them?
I don't know. They sip their blood. I don't know because I don't know.
Does something with the babies anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is aswang, I guess. Now, the picture we have here was sent to me by somebody here in the Philippines. I don't know who sent it. It was anonymous, but it's not pixelized. It's not faked. It's real. Whatever in the hell it is, it's real. And you say, though, that aswang normally would not come out during the day. Is that right?
Yeah. normally they did not come out by daytime, at night.
Only at night.
Yeah.
Well, this is something out during the daytime. There's no question about that. All right. Well, thanks. You didn't want to talk on the air, did you?
No.
Okay. Well, thanks for talking on the air, hon. Thank you very much. That is Irene. All right. So there's Aswang. If you want to take a look at this photograph that we have, even though it's out during the day, which it, I guess according to legend should not be, whatever it is really big. I mean, obviously, as compared to, the homes there and the foliage, you can kind of see at what distance it is in relation to those things. This thing is monstrous. I have no idea what it is. In a moment, we will come back and look at the state of the world. Never good. For those of you looking for the picture of the Oswang on my webcam, no, it's not there. Look on the front page. Actually, I had it there. I had blown up in fact, the picture they've got on the coasttocoastam.com website is pretty good. And if you rob the picture and then blow it up in some sort of thing, it does blow up fairly well. And you can get a pretty good look at that thing. It's a monster. Residents of Bermuda installed storm shutters, hauled their yachts onto beaches. Poor people in Bermuda, huh? Their yachts onto beaches and prepared for Tropical Storm Florence, which intensified on Saturday, was expected to become a hurricane as it approaches the North Atlantic island. Florence, which could become a hurricane as it moves in over the open Atlantic on Sunday, was expected to reach the tiny British territory on Monday, according to the National Hurricane Center in Miami, but too early to tell whether it'll make a direct hit. Space Shuttle Atlantis thundered into orbit Saturday with no obvious damage from debris to worry NASA or the 6-member crew as they prepared to resume construction, finally, of the International Space Station for the first time since the 2003 Columbia disaster. After 2 weeks of delays due to storms and technical trouble, Atlantis rose from its seaside pad through a partly cloudy sky at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. NASA Administrator Michael Griffin described the launch as majestic. I'm sure they're running out of words. A former fugitive suspected of fatally shooting a state trooper and wounding 2 others made his first court appearance Saturday, just one day after surrendering in a field over the Pennsylvania state line following a 5-month manhunt. Ralph Bucky Phillips, who once threatened to splatter pig meat all over Chautauqua County in upstate New York, was on the FBI's 10 most wanted list, was charged with 8 counts, including attempted aggravated murder, first-degree attempted murder, second-degree attempted murder, all in connection with the shooting of a state trooper in June. Very few people turned out Saturday for a rally demanding amnesty for 11 million illegal immigrants. Not popular right now, the latest sign of a pro-immigrant group struggles to regain momentum after hundreds of thousands marched for the cause in the spring. First General Motors, then gun control, followed by George W. Bush. Now rabble-rousing filmmaker Michael Moore has turned his irreverent camera on healthcare in America. Sicko! Moore's dissection of the healthcare system promises to be another hilarious documentary romp. How you do that with healthcare, I don't know, but I guess he'll give it a try. It will be shown at the Toronto International Film Festival. Now, here's one. You gotta wonder. You really gotta wonder. New York woman wins $1 million in the lottery. Again. A woman who won $1 million, I was a friend of Ed Dames, who won $1 million from a state lottery game 4 years ago, has, against all probabilities, hit the jackpot again. Valerie Wilson, who works at a Long Island deli, said she won another $1 million on a lottery scratch-off game last month. Now, how does that happen? I have no idea. We're going to be going to open lines pretty quickly here. Remember we had a talk last week about genetically engineered stuff, actually crops, rice in the case of last week. Well, now grass that was genetically engineered for golf courses is growing in the wild now, posing one of the very first threats of agricultural biotechnology escaping the farm in the U.S., a new study says. Creeping bent grass, as it's called, was engineered to resist the popular herbicide Roundup. In other words, Roundup will not round it up at all to allow more efficient weed control on golf courses, but the modified grass could spread that resistance to the wild, becoming a nuisance itself. According to scientists, it's not a killer tomato, not the asparagus at 8 Cleveland, but it is serious. Elstrand noted the engineered bent grass has the potential to affect more than a dozen other plant species, which could also acquire resistance to Roundup. Great. Such resistance could force land managers and government agencies like the U.S. Forest Service, which relies heavily on Roundup, to switch to nastier herbicides to control the grasses and weeds. This is a definite oops. The bent grass variety is being developed by Scott's Miracle Grow Company in cooperation with Roundup's manufacturer, Monsanto. Companies say they're on it, though. Spokesman for both the companies said they'd been expecting the results of the study published in the Journal of Molecular Energy. We've been working to mitigate it, they say. We're down maybe to a couple of dozen plants now. King said the seed from a test plot somehow escaped several years ago while it was drying following harvest in Oregon's Willamette Valley, home to most of the U.S. grass seed industry and the world's largest producer of commercial grass varieties. So it escaped. The main question now, King says, is whether the government will allow commercial use of the experimental bent grass for golf courses. Well, I would think maybe not. Eradicating it has not been a difficult issue, he said. The only difference between the turf seed we're working to produce and naturally occurring varieties is it has a gene resistant to this specific herbicide, Roundup. Well, I've heard a lot of jokes about Roundup, and it's pretty tough stuff. So this is resistant to that, and it's a definite oops. I got this email, and I thought I would share it with you. I don't know, I just liked it. Dear Art, it's been a long time since I heard your broadcast. In '94, I was introduced to your broadcast while working as a computer mapping engineer at a Kansas City, Missouri company. We worked late night, stared at computer screens, but your voice kept us on track. Sometimes it was the one thing we looked forward to when heading back to work. Now, I'm serving on active duty here in Afghanistan. I am an AH-64A pilot, an aviation safety officer. Unfortunately, we don't receive your broadcast over here, Afghanistan, but it was nice to see you're still on the internet and on radio. We recently lost one of our brothers in arms. It was tragic, but we are warriors, and we'll pull through. Let all your listeners know, if you would, that we have high morale. We all believe in the cause of freedom and justice. We're pushed to the limit at times, but we don't give up. That's the cost of security, and I, for one, am happy to pay that cost. By the way, I like your site's last paragraph about being in the cockpit late at night. I've been in that cockpit in the middle of the Hindu Kush Mountains on a night so dark you couldn't see anything if your night vision device should fail. It's a weird feeling, but gets your heart pumping for sure. Take care, and thanks for being the voice in the night. That's Mel, CW3 Mel, F Troop 2-10AVN Task Force Nighthawk. So there you go. I've got an awful lot of additional news, but there is one other thing that I want to squeeze in. Humans, according to paleontologists, now listen very carefully to this, please. Humans have tried to colonize Britain on at least 8 separate occasions in the past 700,000 years. On each occasion, but the last, the populations were wiped out when an ice age arrived. British people today, our new arrivals, were products of only the last 12,000 years, said Chris Stringer, head of human origins at the Natural History Museum. The findings, which mean that modern native Britons are descended from a continuous line younger than their counterparts in the Americas and Australia, are part of a 5-year Ancient Human Occupation of Britain project, which concluded this month. Evidence from burial sites shows that modern humans, Homo sapiens as it were, arrived in Britain about 30,000 years ago. But Professor Stringer's project showed that other species of humans made the journey from Africa via Europe sometime earlier. A recent fossil discovery in Pakefield, Suffolk, was identified as a species called Homo antecessor, or nicknamed Pioneer Man, dated at 700,000 years old. That'll push back the first evidence of humans By 200,000 years, pioneer man was known to have lived in southern Europe 800,000 years ago and probably made the journey to Britain via a connecting land bridge. It looks like there were 8 separate colonization attempts that we can record, and 7 of those were unsuccessful, said Professor Stringer, speaking yesterday at the British Association Festival of Science in Norwich. Britain was repopulated over and over again. This is a very young, contiguous occupation we're seeing here. Each unsuccessful population died out or was forced to retreat due to an adverse change in climate. In other words, ice age after ice age after ice age struck Britain and forced those humans who lived there off the island. And so that is, of course, what Whitley and I were talking about when we talked about the possible climate change which would affect Europe and most particularly Great Britain. So I just thought I'd point that out. Interesting discovery. They now have found that on several, actually 7 separate occasions. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump to the first-time caller line and say, hello, you're on the air.
Hi.
Hi.
I've never called your show before. I've never even heard it. I had an experience last week, and somebody said, "Oh, you saw a shadow person," and I said, "What the heck is that?" So I looked it up on the internet, and I saw your name all over the place as this is kind of the originator of where the term shadow person came from, and this just kind of evolved where a friend of mine was looking on the internet, got your phone number, and so I'm calling. So I don't know.
All right. Well, actually, I'm not the originator of the term. I think it frankly goes way back and has been used before. I may be the modern originator of that term, but it's been around before. What did you see and what?
My brother and I, we go for long walks, and we'll generally go at night. We're night people. He lives next door to me. He's 2 years older than I am. I'm a retired police officer, so I've got a measure of credibility. I've been deemed to be dependable. My brother and I left our house at about 8:15, and we walked up the street. We like to go far, so we'll sometimes hop on a bus or a train, and we'll go somewhere, and then we'll just get off and start walking back.
Sure.
So we're walking up the street, and we're headed towards the a bus stop, and we see a guy sitting there. So we both thought, oh, cool, there's somebody there, so maybe they know what time the bus is coming. And it's usually a good sign when you see somebody because that means the bus didn't just leave.
Right.
So then, and I'm also thinking, well, there's a lot of, I don't mean to be insensitive, but there's a lot of people who are kind of problematic riding buses. So I'm thinking, I hope this guy's not nuts, and I don't want to sit next to him on this bench, so I'm going to go sit on that wall. And the next minute he's gone.
All right. Here's the first question for you. Were you able to see this person in your head-on vision or just in your peripheral?
Directly head-on, both of us. Me and my brother were directly head-on, and we approached him for a good 10, 15 seconds. And I said, "Where'd that guy go?" And my brother said, "So you saw it too, right?"
Did you at any point take your eyes off him? Could he have suddenly run away?
Yeah, I did. And when I looked back, he was gone. But my brother was staring at him, and my brother said he was kind of like doubled over, like he was. My brother said he looked like he was rolling a joint. And so my brother said he just kind of like fell forward and melted into the ground.
Oh, brother. Yeah, that fits the except for the fact that you both saw him, A, which is quite a surprise, and B, you saw him straight on. Otherwise, that certainly fits the description of what we've been talking about in the past couple of weeks.
Really, and just so tonight we went to this car show downtown, and a friend of ours is a sergeant on this local department, and he was working the car show, so we talked to him for a bit, and we told him about it, and he said, when I work graveyard, he said, a lot of times I've seen somebody and I turn around really quick or shine the spotlight on it and they're gone. And I got to thinking back, when I worked graveyard, I didn't give it really all that much thought. It's not like, ooh, that was weird. Did you see what just happened? It was just kind of, I could have swore I saw somebody. And he said, yeah, and they had no avenue of escape. I don't know where the heck they went, but they're gone.
Just gone.
So, I mean,
all right, listen, dear, I've got to scoot because we're here at a break point, but thank you so very much. That is exactly what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Things that are there, and then things that just simply melt away, kind of like they went into some other dimension. From Manila in the Philippines, I'm Art Bell. Robert from Port Orchard, Washington says, hey, Art, can you see these fast blasts, or am I wasting my time while you're on the air? Well, Robert, I shouldn't have to answer that now, should I? Actually, I have an amazing setup here. Not only do I have the fast blast in front of me, but that's in front of me. And to my right, I have another computer screen, which contains all of the telephone lines. And actually, I'm able to see, for example, that Deborah from Missouri is waiting, along with Michael in Maryland, Bob in California, Stryker in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Doc in Indiana, Nina in British Columbia, Canada, John in Illinois, and Matt in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I'm able to see all that and more. It is an amazing. Then I can push a button and answer one of those phone lines and or disconnect it from here. In other words, I have complete control. Even though I'm on the other side of the world from the majority of you, I have complete control over what I'm doing. Now, that kind of tells you the state of the world we're in right now, where you can go to Southeast Asia, literally as close as you can get to the virtual other side of the world, and still do a radio show of this kind and be in complete control. It's absolutely nothing short of amazing. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, top of the hour, Simeon Hine, a crop circle researcher, has taken the time and trouble, I guess, to convert the images of crop circles into some sort of numerical values. Now, I'm jumping ahead here a little bit, perhaps making some suppositions I ought not be making, but I believe that's what he's done. And then he got together with Scott Flansburgh. You've heard Scott here before. I think he is a savant. He is certainly an unusual character, the human calculator. He can do things that normal human beings cannot do with mathematics. And they got together, and you're going to hear the results of that. I understand it was somewhat confusing, but we'll be exploring that at the top of the hour and then spending the remainder of the time, I think, with Scott Flansburgh. In the meantime, off we go to, I guess, west of the Rockies, and Matt in Salt Lake City. Hi.
Hi, Art. Long time no hear.
Well, hey, good to hear you again.
I'm calling to see if you heard any more about Mel's Hole.
No. I am contemplating the possibility of doing something additional with respect to Mel's Hole. So, you know, the old expression on radio, stay tuned, bud. I may do something new on it soon.
Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, take care. Yeah, I may do something soon. I don't know. There may be an update in the wings. There's a lot of controversy, of course, about the whole Mel's Hole story. I'd like to run that through. We'll see. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hey, Art. This is John from Springfield, Illinois.
Hi, John.
I was wanting to get a hold of you last week. I saw a story run about an oil spill on one of the 7,000 islands of the Philippines.
You're exactly right. There's a very, very serious oil spill here. And south of the capital city by a couple hundred miles, I think, and they're trying to get a handle on it now.
Well, more than a handle, I was going to ask you if you see a lot of bald people walking around, because what they're doing is they're shaving their heads and trying to use hair. They're putting in, it might sound like a joke, but I read it in the paper, they're putting hair in like 50-pound sacks and putting it out there to absorb the oil.
Well,
they've
got lots of raw material here in the Philippines. The gals here in the Philippines tend to grow their hair very long. So if that's really true,
it is really true. I have something about crop circles I wanted to ask you what you thought too, Art.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you think is this theory of crop circles are maybe pattern bursts of plasma bounced off the ionosphere, maybe from like HARP or something, and maybe some kind of a shielding?
Well, look, I've had two thoughts on that, and one is that crop circle. I can't get over the hair business. Crop circles might be a testing mechanism for U.S. or who knows whose satellites up there, or as we know, HARP can bounce very strong RF off the ionosphere, and maybe they're doing it.
Right.
Hair. I mean,
With the hair, though, they did say like 11,000 inmates at some prison, they all shave their heads. So I was going to ask you if you see any bald women walking around.
No.
I'm just kidding, Art. Thank you.
All right. You're kidding, huh? Okay. Well, very good. I certainly appreciate the call. That's pretty strange. Yeah, the gals here in the Philippines tend to all have. I shouldn't say all, but the majority of them have very long hair. It's the norm here. So there'd be a lot of raw material, but I can't see doing that unless it's some kind of protest or something. I don't know. Wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Good evening, Art. It's nice to talk to somebody in the very near future.
I am in not so very near. Really, it is Sunday afternoon here, sir, so it's a pretty good trip.
Yeah. Well, George had read a bit on the air last night about the BYU physics professor, and he was saying that they'd found traces of thermite on the World Trade Center materials.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
well, I imagine they could find traces of a lot of things. If you examine a lot of things, you find traces of a lot of things. I've got a story here on chemtrails that's absolutely fascinating. They did, let me just give this to you, and maybe it'll give you an idea of what can be found. They examined some chemtrails that came from, I think, Iowa. Iowa. And here's what they found. Are you ready?
Yeah.
6 bacteria, including anthrax and pneumonia, 9 chemicals, including acetylene chloride, 26 heavy metals, including arsenic, gold, lead, mercury, silver, uranium, and zinc, 4 molds, 7 viruses, 2 cancers, 2 vaccines, 2 sedatives. Now, that's in a sample of chemtrails, sir.
Well, that's what I was going, the direction I was heading with his thermite findings. The 3 of the basic ingredients in thermite is iron, magnesium, and aluminum. And if you look at the building itself, it was made out of steel girders. And byproduct of that is iron oxide or rust. Most of the airplane bodies are made out of aluminum,
That's
which
correct.
when it starts corroding, you get aluminum oxide. And there are quite a few mechanical pieces that are made out of magnesium.
Are you one of these 9/11 people who thinks that the U.S. government did it to itself?
No, sir. No.
Well, I'm being currently bombarded by zillions of emails. Of course, as we approach the 5th anniversary, I'm getting millions of emails from people who think that we did do it to ourselves. Now, there are scientists in the fairly mainstream scientific community who are beginning to join this group, 60 or 70 scientists. So it may be that we have to take a hard look at this, but I am not somebody who believes that we did it to ourselves.
Well, I don't believe that we did it to ourselves either. But, because I was watching when they were falling, and I have a background as an blacksmith. And at the altitude that those planes hit, you've got a small hole going in, a big hole on the other side. When you get air moving, that fast at that height, you're basically, creating a super hot forge, a blacksmith forge. And the steel's going to get soft. It's going to start collapsing down on itself because of the weight. And what a lot of people are saying they saw as explosions down below the damaged areas, I'm pretty sure that would be air pressure being, blowing the windows outward.
It could very easily be. I'm not really sure what to do about all of this. I think that the noise level and the number of people who believe, relatively credible scientific people who believe that this may be so has risen to the point where another examination of what happened with 9/11 may be in order. Now, that does not change what I believe. I don't for one second believe that we did this to ourselves. And for the record, I'm here in the Philippines not because I'm fleeing the United States because I believe something awful like that. I've had questions like that. Not at all. I'm here because there's someone I love here. So, on the other hand, if something like that turned out to be true, then that would be a good reason to be here, wouldn't it? It's not the reason. I don't think we did it to ourselves. I don't think that I could ever get over it if I believed that. I understand the emotion, the intense, what's the right word? The intense passion that the people who believe this is true apply to their belief. And I think that enough credible scientists have joined in with this group so that it does demand an examination. It does not change, as I mentioned, the way I feel. I don't for 1 second think we did it to ourselves. And if I did believe that, it would be a good reason to be here, wouldn't it? But it is not the case. Let's go to Indiana and say hello there. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hello. Turn your radio off, please.
Hey, Art, this is Doc.
Yes, Doc.
I'm a long-haul trucker on 65 heading into Indianapolis. Got a question for you. I've had 3 different experiences over a 10-year period of seeing 3 different ghosts. 2 of the 3, in no uncertain terms, when they appeared and they actually knew that I could see them, they got this, went bug-eyed with their mouth flying open as if I had scared them. Mm-hmm. Or as if they had committed some horrible, broken some rule. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then
I know.
instantly,
I know. Listen, I know exactly what you're saying, and the same thing applies to, and probably applies to both ghosts, or whether you want to call them ghosts or you want to call them shadow people or whatever they are. In those instances where listeners have described roughly what this man just did, that there was sort of shock on both sides, there would appear to be, and this again has been the topic of the last couple of weeks, there appears to be a lowering or a lifting, if you will, of the veil between this dimension and some other dimension. And I use these terms loosely. I don't know that it's a dimensional anything that we're seeing shift and change, and we're beginning to get glimpses of things that we have never seen before. And I have no idea what these things are, but as this gentleman pointed out many times, when they see us, they appear to be as shocked as we are when we see them. On the international line, you are on the air. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Art. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello, it's Nina here in British Columbia, Canada.
Good to hear from you again.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for your time for answering my email. And,
sure.
And please say hi to Erin. Actually, I have a story to share about when I heard Erin saying about the aswang.
Yes.
Yes. When I was in high school, I had long hair, like up to my hips. It was like black, thick hair. And all my classmates were like saying, "How your hair is really nice." And one day, one of my classmates touched my hair and she goes, "Do you know how to braid this?" I said, "No, it's my mama." And she said, "No, you're lying." And after that, she pat my hair. At the end of the day, my head was already swollen. And my eyes were slit, and for 3 days I could not see. It was really, really swollen.
And you believe that was the touch of Aswang?
It's not. It's like witchcraft. Like somebody wants to inflict pain on you, like they're jealous of your hair or anything.
Yes.
Erin knows this. So somebody advised me, because I was not able to attend school for 4 days. I could not see because it was really, really swollen. My whole head. So and I went to this old lady who practices herbal whatever, and she was able to remove the swelling. And then she told me that this girl had an intention to make my hair fall off, and she gave me this. The old lady gave me this pearl-like stone that's against the witchcraft, and I had to wear this all my life until now. I have it with me. It's like antidote to people who practice witchcraft.
I understand completely, and perhaps that was the touch of Aswang. I don't know. In the talk that my wife and I had about Aswang, I think it lasted about 2 hours, and it got very serious because I was kind of joking, and I'm saying, "Oh, come on, we have ghost stories too." And then she got very, very serious and kind of annoyed that I wasn't believing her, and so it became a serious conversation. And I looked very heavily into this Aswang business, and there is something to it. When I say that it is believed here, I don't mean it's lightly believed, or that it's joked about, or that I don't know how I can convey to you the seriousness with which this creature is viewed here. It's very, very serious indeed. In fact, if you look back into some of the World War II literature, you will see that some of the fighting that was done here in the Philippines, some victories were achieved simply because of that belief. You can read all about it. Well, let's see. Let's go to all the way to Wyoming, west of the Rockies. You're on the air.
Hey, Art. I wondered if you had forgotten about the 93 bombing of the World Trade Center by the FBI. It was reported in the New York Times that they gave Ahmad Salam real bomb-making material and that he secretly recorded them ordering him to use the real bomb-making material. Or do you?
No, I was not. Well, certainly, I was aware. Excuse me, sir. I was aware of the 93.
I wasn't excusing
bombing.
you. You interrupted me, so I was continuing.
No, I was not. I was not. I was just telling you. I was aware of the. Hello, sir. You'll have your chance.
You don't want to talk about the issues, but you want to talk about flying saucers. I understand.
He hung up. See, I was giving him a perfect opportunity to speak, but he just hung up. You all heard it. That's an attempt to make me look rude. Well, I didn't hang up, sir. You hung up. I was simply saying I was aware of the of the bombing. Now, the bombing by the FBI, I was simply going to make the distinction that no, I certainly wasn't aware that the FBI did it. Well, sorry, bud, that one didn't work. A wildcard line, you're on the air. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. This is Deborah from Festus, Missouri.
Hi, Deborah.
I have a question that actually I have two. My son and my maybe future daughter-in-law are in the other room on the computer, and I went in frantically saying, "Get on the line. I want to see a picture of that Aswang thing that you were talking about." So I've been running between the radio and that. Unfortunately, they don't share it a whole lot, but they did get it on. And the question is, you said that was a night creature that comes out?
That's correct. And I did mention that it's an obviously daytime shot.
Okay, I missed that. That was their question. They asked if it's a night creature, why is the shot during the day? And so that seemed a little strange. And we were trying to figure out, we blew it up and everything else. It looks like it's kind of like a bat wings or something on it. It's really fascinating. But
it's awfully damn big, isn't it?
Yes. And we were, and they were looking at it, and so they were kind enough to let me get it on the thing to see what it looks like. That's really interesting. And
well, it's big, and if you can get that photograph off, and you can, the website, put it in a good viewer and blow it up.
And we did it on the computer. We have a pretty good size screen, and we did blow it up, and it to where it was where you couldn't tell what it was distorted, and then we brought it back down a bit.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's a pretty good size. But that was our question. Somehow I missed it between frantically running. I don't have a computer of my own, and they share occasionally, and so I was missing parts probably, but I wanted to see what that looked like real quick. So
well, there you have it.
Okay.
All right. Take care, and thank you very much for calling. That's the way these 9/11 people are conducting themselves. They will call you a traitor. They will call you all kinds of nasty things, and they will attempt to make you look rude, like you wouldn't listen to them. In the case of that man who just called, it obviously did not work. And in fact, actually, it was kind of rude of him to just sort of wait a moment, decide to hang up, and then go clunk. Very rude, sir, very rude. This is Coast to Coast AM. A big Coast to Coast AM shout out to Alex. How you doing, everybody? Coming up in a moment, Simeon Hine. For one, Dr. Simeon Hine, doctor, is the director of the Institute for Resonance in Boulder, Colorado. The institute's devoted to the study of subtle energy sciences, including remote viewing, crop circles, and related subjects. Dr. Hine has a Ph.D. in sociology and has previously taught research methodology at Washington State University. Simeon first learned remote viewing in 1996, subsequently became involved in crop circle research. He is the author of Planetary Intelligence 101, Easy Steps to Everyday Well-Being and Natural Insight and Opening Minds, A Journey of Extraordinary Encounters, Crop Circles and Resonance. Having witnessed the formation of crop circles, the actual formation made by expert crop circle making teams in England, Dr. Hine learned of the extraordinary phenomena, including telepathy experiences, balls of light, UFO sightings, and frequently surround man-made crop circles. He believes that all crop circles, regardless of their origin, create magical, mysterious effects by virtue of their shape and subtle interaction between humans, plants, and sacred geometry. So we're going to take him and we're going to combine him with Scott Flansburgh. Now, Scott Flansburgh has been on the show previously. He is simply an amazing man. He's the human calculator. That's a nickname given to him by television star Regis Philbin. Scott has appeared on several shows, including ESPN World Series of Poker, Main Event, Oprah, Ellen, Tonight Show with Jay Leno, Dateline NBC's, ABC's Good Morning America, Larry King Live, Howard Stern, 700 Club, Primetime America, Regis and Kathy. Oh, my goodness, CNN Daywatch, how'd they do that? He has given hundreds of interviews around the world and is also a best-selling author, and these two are going to combine their expertise in a moment and talk to us about crop circles. All right, let's see if we have actually done it. Dr. Simeon Hine, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, Art.
Good afternoon, indeed. And Scott Flansburgh, the human calculator, are you there?
I am.
All right, we've got you both. Wonderful. Now, I guess, Simeon, we only have you for an hour. Is that correct?
Well, we can go longer if it's going to work out that way. So.
Oh, good. All right. I mean, this is a very unusual combination. I'm going to start with you, Simeon, if that's okay with you, Scott.
Sure. Of course.
Simeon, I know you're deeply involved, for example, with Roger Nelson of Pear Labs doing the random event generator, and I guess you took one of these into actual crop circles and sacred sites. Now, what happened when you took a random event generator into these sites? Did you really get any anomalies?
Well, that's right, Art. We had Roger Nelson along with us on one of Ron Russell's crop circle tours this last summer. And we were really curious to see if the random event generator would actually register any anomalies in the crop circles. Now, there were fewer crop circles this year than previous seasons, so we only had a chance to bring the random event generator into 2 different crop circles, and we didn't get any results in those 2 crop circles. But we did get results in the Avebury stone circles during a group meditation in late July. So while we didn't get it in the crop circles, we got it during a meditation at a significant level, and actually Coast listeners can see that on the openingminds.info website, the graph of the actual random events that the generator created. So we got the anomalies in the stone circles, but not in the 2 crop circles. Of course, 2 is not really large enough of a sample to really know if anything is going on, so we'll have to do it again in the future to get more data.
That's absolutely right. Dr. Hine, were you able to discern whether these crop circles were man-made or natural events?
So these appear to have been man-made circles. So
maybe that's why.
Maybe or maybe not. You know, we found so many anomalies in these man-made circles, including the one we're about to talk about tonight that Scott commissioned us to make for him for his math matrix, that I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the man-made ones also. But it'd certainly be interesting to test it in a variety of circles of all types of origins. All
right. Well, before we turn to Scott for an evaluation of what he found, I'm interested to know if there's some lay way that you can explain to us how you did a conversion of a crop circle into what you considered to be some meaningful math.
Actually, the mathematical matrix that's on the Coast website right now, that's actually based on Scott's math matrix, his base 9 math matrix system that he's so keen about. And it was really pretty much a mechanical process of translating the matrix into something we could do in the field. we had Peter Sorensen kind of do the legwork to kind of create the system where we could actually do that in the field, and we worked with some very talented circle makers in England to help us kind of create that design. So,
okay, but still I'm not quite getting it. In other words, in a crop circle we have a definite design of some sort, varying designs. And so how did you convert what is a visual design to something mathematical, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Well, first what we had to do was to create a grid structure. And Scott had already created the numbers for us to put in there. It's really just a challenge of creating the actual pattern based on his matrix. And the mathematical ratios were pretty much created by the circle makers we worked with to kind of create that math matrix that you can see surrounded by the 9 circles with the swirls in them. So the interesting part for us is all of the strange effects that created later on that show us that we hit some of the mathematical ratios correctly. In other words, the math matrix we created was tuned in a certain way to create a certain resonance that we could see its effects on 3 different cameras and a camcorder that actually burnt out while we were there. So we know we kind of got it right in a sense. But the main idea was to create the shape that Scott had kind of created ahead of time with his matrix. But it turned out it created a lot of very weird, strange effects, like we've often seen in many different crop circles over the years. But this is one that we made, and it's burning out our cameras and our batteries and so forth. So the whole effect is really quite interesting.
Boy, that is weird.
Yeah.
All right, Scott. How did you even begin with this? You created this matrix. Maybe you can sort of lay it out in a way we can understand.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Art. I had a discovery on 9999 about the number 9, and it took me a little while to realize its potential. And I was trying to figure out a way to illustrate this to people so they could see how simple this idea was. And I was just jotting it down on a piece of paper, and I just kept going with 0 through 9 over and over again. And I did it 10 times across, and then I did it 10 times down. And it created what you're looking at, the matrix, and it creates a grid of numbers. Instead of 1 through 100, it creates a grid of zeros through 99. Mm-hmm. And being a human calculator, all these years I've been doing these demonstrations and racing computers and the Guinness Book World Records and all that stuff. And every time it came down to, well, how are you doing this? I mean, it's great that you're doing it, but what's going on? And I didn't have an answer for years, Art. And this matrix, I believe, is the grid in my mind that allows me to do what I do.
All right. I'm looking at what we have, and it's right, folks, if you go to coasttocoastam.com, it's right there. Click on the picture for an enlargement, and you'll see the numbers contained around these circles. Now, again, you think this is a man-made crop circle. Is that correct, Doctor?
Well, we actually made it for Scott, so we know it's man-made because he commissioned us at the Institute for Resonance, our nonprofit in Boulder, to make this formation for him. And because we're so interested in the science behind the crop formations, we kind of left it to chance, because the more formations you can actually go out and make yourself and see the strange effects on your equipment later on, the more you're going to learn about exactly why crop circles create all of these weird electrical and electronic effects that we still don't exactly know why they're doing that.
Okay, well, there's a giant square with, I don't know, how many numbers, Scott, you can
100.
tell us?
It's a 10 by 10 grid that goes from 0 to 99. And it took me a while, a couple of years even, but there's actually 9 hidden patterns about numbers in there that nobody's ever noticed or used before. And it has wired my brain in a way to create this number sense that allows me to move through numbers as quickly as I do to be the fastest human calculator in the world.
Yeah, we'll get to a demonstration of that. It's totally awesome here in a while, or maybe shortly. But all right, all of this. I mean, here we have a man-made crop circle. We have your interpretation of it. Is that a fair way to put it, Scott? Numerically in the center.
Well, yes, and I'd like to say that this was the only way that I could think of to introduce this concept to the world, because numbers are our global language. And crop circles have this mystique to them that nothing else I could have done. I couldn't buy a page in a newspaper or magazine or a TV spot to create the momentum that this crop circle has in countries around the world. The emails I'm already receiving are mind-boggling, and the response from the people in that arena has been fascinating. And so when he said that about the experiences that they had when they were making this for me, it's sort of how I feel in my mind. I mean, it just makes perfect sense. It's so logical. It's burned into my brain. And when I walk into schools and show this to people, Art, the kids just react to it so positively because it never lets them down. It's perfect mathematically.
Perfect. All right. Again, it's a man-made crop circle. It's got your numerical interpretation in the center of it, and it produced all these anomalous results. When I say anomalous results, let's document them, Doctor. Exactly what happened to your equipment?
Well, the first effect we noticed was when we flew over the crop circle to take a picture of it in an ultralight. Ron Russell took my digital camera along. It's about 8 years old. You know those ones from about 8 years ago. They're a bit bulky, and they did the job. They still work pretty well. Now, we got one of the effects that I've actually heard about on Coast years ago of pilots flying over crop circles and having their instrumentation affected.
Yes.
What happened was, I actually like to see this for myself. I mean, I always am interested in hearing these stories, but I like to see it actually demonstrated. In this case, my digital camera froze up. The electronics froze in the camera at about 600 to 1,200 feet over the crop circle, and it would not take any more pictures. It had room for about 20 more shots, but after 4 shots, it wouldn't take any more pictures. And when Ron brought the camera back after the flight, the camera had completely jammed. I actually had to turn it off for about 15 seconds before it would do anything again. I couldn't even review the pictures he had taken. It was just flashing. Now, I actually looked in the manual for the camera because I thought maybe this was like an error code, and there was nothing in the manual about the whole display flashing. So we actually got the effect that we heard about. And in fact, Freddie Silva on this show a couple of weeks ago mentioned that a very same effect, that when you fly over crop circles, sometimes you get these strange effects. In this case, my 8-year-old camera has never done that before. It's only done that over this crop circle. So I have to say that something about the crop circle affected the camera. And then the next day, when Ron took his own camera up to see if his would work, even though the batteries were fresh, it refused to take any pictures over the crop circle. He actually had to go to his manual Nikon slide camera. And that's the picture you see on the website right now, on the Coast website, is actually taken with a manual camera because none of our digital cameras would work over this particular formation. That was the first effect we saw. Yeah.
That would imply some sort of electromagnetic effect. You agree?
Electromagnetic or electrical or quantum, something like that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
A digital camera certainly could be affected by an electromagnetic field. Now, maybe that's it, maybe not, but that was not it. As strange as that was in 2 cameras, that's really weird. Mm-hmm. But apparently you also took electrostatic readings in the circle, is that correct?
Yes, we did. We had our electrostatic meter, and I've talked about this on Coast in the past. You know, we like to measure the electrostatic fields in and around the crop circles. And often, you know, as our theory a long time ago was that the man-made ones wouldn't create any electrostatic charges and the kind of original, authentic phenomena might. But then we found in the year 2000 that even the man-made ones were creating a lot of electrostatic differences between the inside the circle and the outside. In this particular circle, you can see in the 9 circles surrounding the math matrix.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, those created a difference of about 10 times versus the outside of the formation, like a jump from like 20 volts to 200. And then towards the inner part of the circle, it lessened, and the numbers actually created about a 2- or 3-fold effect. And Ron and I both measured the circle independently and got the same effect. So the swirled circles actually created the largest electrostatic effects in terms of affecting the meter, and the inner part of the circle affected it less. So that was another effect that we saw in the circle that showed us that the very presence of the formation affects the electrostatic field of the area.
Right. Doctor, do you even want to take a stab at what it would be about a circle, man-made or otherwise, that would have these effects?
It's a great question. You know, it's something that we've all been thinking about, those of us involved in crop circle research for so many years. And I just have to believe that looking at all these weird effects, and there's more we haven't even talked about with this particular circle, that crop circles may be like a fourth state of matter, like the Bose-Einstein condensate. in the fact that you have these swirled patterns that are created in very careful ways. The mathematical ratios are predetermined ahead of time. And when you create these kind of swirled layer effects, what you're actually creating is something like a natural superconductor, in which the subatomic particles and electrons specifically move through with less resistance than they normally would in a wheat field. And this is exactly what you would explain some of the cameras and batteries burning out, which I've seen many times now, again and again. Actually, if you read articles about room temperature superconductors, they talk about the paired electrons actually shorting out electronics. That's actually what we're seeing in these crop circles. So it's very possible that the layered effect of putting down one layer of wheat and then another, which have been seen in the original phenomena and the man-made circles, actually creates a different flow of electricity and of subatomic particles, and that actually the resistance is decreased. There's a lot of scientific information to support that idea. And that layering twisted in a mathematical ratio, which actually was supplied by Scott to begin with based on his pattern, actually created something akin to a superconductor.
Yikes. All right. Scott, when you started doing the numbers for this, I can't even begin to know what your mind is like. I mean, even when you're doing what for you is a simple demonstration with numbers, and I guess we should do that soon so people have some understanding of the amazing savant I think you are. Did it impart any particular feeling to you as you ran through the math of this thing?
It really did, and first for me on a personal level, Art, it blew my mind that nobody had ever noticed these patterns and numbers before. And as I kept going deeper and deeper into the patterns and seeing more and more, and then the simplest patterns being the last ones that revealed themselves to me, it really made me question why we do what we do. And we do it all over the world the same. And I took a couple of years and just researched this and went around the world talking to mathematicians. I went to the World Mental Math Championships and met the top human calculators from around the world. I really just tried to understand why we don't approach it this way, and I haven't found a good answer yet. And so,
when you say do the things we do, what do you mean?
Well, we're wired for numbers wrong. If you ask the average kid at a school to count their fingers, we have 10 fingers and they all go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And,
yes.
And that's cool if you're counting your fingers, but in reality, the 10 digits that make up all the numbers in the universe are really 0 through 9. And they fit on our hands like this. It sounds like this. It goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And just like a computer or a calculator is wired to begin with 0, the human mind needs to recognize 0 as the first digit, and I believe that is the power button to this muscle in our brain that is a calculator, and we just didn't know how to turn it on.
So we've been off by 1.
Yeah, and it's really
That's what you're saying? We've been off by 1, that actually 0 is a digit?
It's the digit. And, look at Roman numerals, Art. The last number system that was popular on the earth before this system that came out of India was the Roman numerals, and they used letters for numbers. And the first 6 letters of the Roman numeral system are IVXLCD, which is 1, 5, 10, 50, 100, and 500. And if you met me a couple thousand years ago as a human calculator, you'd have thrown letters at me, not numbers. And it's not possible for the human mind to calculate with letters translating to numbers. And if you add up the first 6 letters of the Roman numeral system, it adds up exactly to 666.
Oh, God. All right. Both of you, Scott Flansburgh and Dr. Simeon Hine, hold tight. Those of you who have not yet done so, go to coasttocoastam.com. Not only take a look at the Aswang, but definitely take a look at this crop circle. Take a look at the numbers, and we'll talk about it. A man-made crop circle dissected numerically by Scott Flansburgh, and all those effects. I'm Art Bell. Here I am. Let's review a little bit what we're talking about here. We're talking about a man-made crop circle. We're talking about an interpretation, numerical interpretation of that crop circle performed by my other guest, Scott Flansburgh, and, of course, Dr. Simeon Hine, who is a crop circle researcher. So far, what do we know? We know that if man makes a crop circle, the effects are very much like the real McCoy. In other words, cameras fail inexplicably, even at altitude above the crop circle. We know that other anomalous effects occur. Electrostatic measurements can be made that also are very much like the real McCoy. If we know them to be the real McCoy. In other words, man can do something that creates effects that we absolutely do not understand. In a moment, we'll get a demonstration of what the human calculator can do. I'm Art Bell. Having been a guest on Coast to Coast AM previously, Scott Flansburgh, otherwise known as the human calculator. Probably most of you are familiar with what he does, but I know some of you obviously are not. This is an amazing man. Scott, if you would please give us a kind of a demonstration of exactly what you can do, what your brain can do with numbers.
Okay, thanks, Art. I appreciate the opportunity. And what I like to do is I get warmed up. I have to get my brain going. I'm like a athlete, except I'm a mathlete. And so, you stretch out before you do sports and stuff. And so I sort of do that with numbers. So just for fun, you don't even have to have a calculator, Art. I'll do the best I can. But just for fun, just throw out some 3-digit numbers. And I'll say plus after each 3-digit number. And I'll just try to add them all up in my head as you're saying them out loud.
How many you want 3?
Yeah, 3-digit numbers will do, 3, 4, 5, whatever you're into.
278.
Plus.
167.
Plus.
194.
639. And I just keep a running total in my head while I'm doing that. And I do it because I teach kids and adults and teachers how to add numbers left to right. We are all taught how to add backwards in school. We learn how to add right to left, and we have to do this thing called the carry. And it doesn't allow the human brain to function at its efficient factor. It's the worst way to approach math, because when we teach people how to read, we go left to right.
No, wait a minute now. I do the old right to left stuff, and I carry, and I can't, my brain cannot conceive of a way that you could start on the left and go to the right.
I thank you so much for saying that, Art. Please allow me the opportunity to show you that is not true. Just for fun, if you have a pencil and a piece of paper in front of you, I'm just going to give you 4 numbers to write down, okay, and do them like a column, okay? So all right. 27, 22, 11, 14, and then draw a line underneath it like you're going to add them up, and then drop your pen. And I'm going to have you use your brain doing addition in your head, and it's very simple. All you do is you start left and you go right. So start in the top left corner there. There should be a 2 in the tens column, which stands for a 20, correct?
Uh-huh.
And underneath that is another 2, which is just 20 more. So all I want you to do is keep a running total, and we're going to go down the columns backwards. So what's 20 plus 20?
40.
10 more.
50s,
10
and then
more.
60. Yeah.
60, right? Now go to the top of the next column. What's 60 plus 7?
67.
Plus 2.
69.
Plus 1.
70.
Plus 4.
74.
And that's the answer to those 4 numbers added together. And you could do that anytime. So now you've never tried that before, Art, and you admitted to that. And now I'm just going to give you 4 more numbers and just write them down. And I'd love to hear how you handle it just to see how it goes. Okay, so let's do 35, 34, 11, and 12.
And 12.
So 35, 34, 11, and 12. And just do it out loud so we can all hear you and experience it.
Well, 30 and 30 is 60. Plus 10 is 70. Plus 10 is 80. Right?
Yep.
And then
80 plus 5?
85, 89, 92.
There you go. That's it. Now, it's very simple, and it works. I do this in front of 4th and 5th graders almost every day, and they can do this the first time they see it. And you can do it with 3-digit numbers, 4-digit numbers. It'll never fail you. But
all right, what about number progressions? You do number progressions at an amazing fast rate. Show me that one.
Okay, cool. That's my world record in the Guinness Book. Is I had to actually race an accountant using a calculator.
That's
so
right.
on a calculator, all you got to do is punch in a number, and don't tell me what it is yet. And let's just do a 2-digit number so everybody can almost keep up and sort of understand what I'm doing. And all you do is punch in that number and then hit the plus sign on your calculator and then hit the same 2-digit number again and hit equals. And what the calculator does is if you want to count by that number, all you have to do is keep hitting equals, and it will keep adding that number to itself over and over again. The accountant had to actually do it physically. Like the judge chose 38. So the accountant had to do 38 plus 38 plus 38 as fast as he could for 15 seconds, and I just said it out loud, racing him. And after 15 seconds, he got 28 answers, and I have 36.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, let's try one. I'll give you a 2-digit number. All right.
Okay. And you're going to
42.
And you got 84. The next one's 126, 168, 210, 252, 294, 336, 378, 420, 462, 504, 546, 588, 630, 672, 714, 756, 798, 840, 882, 924, 966, 1000, 8000, 50,000, 92, 1134, 1176, like that.
Oh, my God. I have no idea how a brain becomes wired to do what you're doing. I have not even a clue.
I felt the same way, Art, for all these years, ever since I was a little kid, and all my friends helped me discover this skill, this gift that I have with numbers, and it just makes sense to my brain, and I didn't have a great explanation for how I could do it at that speed. And I really believe that what I'm sharing with you guys about the Matrix is the ground zero of numbers. And
but wait. How can your friends help you learn something that even they don't know?
Well, my buddy Andy McKay, and we were just growing up, little kids. I wasn't even 11 years old yet, and I was already becoming known as a math person, somebody that could do some pretty interesting things. And my teachers heard the rumors, and I had a great teacher in 5th grade. His name's Mr. Potter, and he didn't shut me down because I wasn't following the curriculum. He would actually teach us how to do it, and then say, okay, Scott, have you come up with an easier way to do it? And I would say, oh, yeah, if you go like this. So everything I learned, I would always figure out an easier way to get the answer. And so that's how that all started. And Andy had a calculator, and this was like, 70s. Calculators had really just become available. His father was a pilot. And he said, Scott, I just did 28 plus 28, and I hit equals. What's that? And I said 56. And he hit equals again. He said, well, what's that again? I said 84. And he just started hitting equals, and it like awoke something within my brain because my mind was going faster than my mouth.
Oh, well, they helped you with a calculator.
Yeah,
I see. All right. I was trying to figure out how they would help you rewire your brain to do something that the rest of us cannot do. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and it was just a discovery moment, and it really didn't mean much. And then my mom started taking me to the grocery store, and I would add everything up as she put it in the cart. And my, dad would write out the check before we got to the register. Just for fun. So that's how that got started.
All right. Stop for a second. Now let's come back to the crop circle for a second. A man-made crop circle that we're looking at, and this series of numbers. Now, how do these numbers relate to this circle? Is there any way, in layman's terms, you can describe how the numbers relate to what we're seeing?
Yes, absolutely. If you look at the number grid, and if people that are not looking at it, they're just going to have to listen. It's a very visual thing to experience. But just for fun, Art, just one of the 9 patterns. Just put your finger on a number on the matrix and just say it out loud.
98.
Oh, okay. Start with a much smaller number.
Okay. 12.
Okay, so put your finger on 12. And now you'll notice that on the matrix, the 1s go to the right and the 10s go down. It increases by 1 to the right and 10 down. You see what I mean?
No. I'm
okay,
sorry.
So
what do you mean 1 to the right?
Yeah, it keeps incrementing 1 to the right. It goes 0, 1.
Oh, I see. Of course.
And then if you go down, it goes 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. So if you want to move 10, you go down. If you want to move 1, you go right. So
got it.
You got your finger on 12. And now let's say you want to add 22 to that number. So 22 is just 20 and 2. So just move down 2 10s, 22, 32, and then over 2 1s, 33, 34.
Right.
and it adds itself up. It's like a magic adding matrix that adds any two numbers together, and it gives the brain an opportunity to experience the directional movement of our mind mathematically. That right now, if you walk into any school, not only in America but around the world, kids are learning all these basic arithmetics through memorization and flashcards. This grid allows them to picture something in their mind to help them understand what they're doing with basic arithmetic. So that's just one of the things. This is a magic adding grid. It'll go any way as far as you want. It wraps itself around perpetually. And if you want to do subtraction, you just go backwards. You go up and left. And so when I'm using it for the past 5 years now, I've been testing this with students all over the world. And when they get done doing this, they have an understanding of numbers that they've never been able to experience before because we've always done it in this like air math mode.
Oh, okay. Well, all this is wonderful, but it still doesn't explain to me how it relates to these interconnected circles.
Oh, the 9 circles around it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, because there's 10 digits, 0 through 9, and you'll notice there's not 9 circles, there's actually 10.
Right.
The big 0 circle is the one that encompasses the actual matrix.
Gotcha.
And then the other 9 are the other 9 digits. And just like we were mentioning earlier, that we're wired to think everything starts at 1, 0 doesn't count. And actually, I believe that's the exact opposite. I think 0 makes all the difference in the world.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I see. So these numbers represent what we see.
Yes, and I believe it's the first time we're going to have a chance to have a visual aid to learn arithmetic versus all the other ways we've been doing it.
Okay, Scott, what do these numbers mean to you? I mean, taken in totality or taken as you look across them or however you read these numbers, what do they mean to you and what do you feel when you look at this matrix?
Well, the first thing that hits me is that every number on this matrix is designed to go back to the number 9. And I discovered this pattern on 9999, which inspired me to make this matrix. And it's a very simple pattern, Art. If you count 0 and you stop at 9 being the highest single digit, every number after that is going to add down to 9. So, for example, the next number is 10. And we write the number 10 using 2 digits. We use a 1 and a 0. And just add the digits of the number together. So you say, okay, what's 1 plus 0? And you get a total of 1. And just subtract that total from the number. So what's 10 minus 1? 9. Every number in the universe goes back to 9, and I'm just showing you the first 99, 100 of them. So go to the number 11, and we write 11 with a 1 and a 1. And the number 11 is designed to teach all of us humans 1 plus 1. That's why there's a 1 and a 1. So you say, okay, well, I think 1 plus 1 is 2. And subtract that total from the number. 11 minus 2 gives you 9. And what it is a checker for your brain for basic arithmetic, to introduce your brain. And what I believe it does is if you started at 10 and worked your way down to 99, you would experience every basic addition fact from 1 plus 0 up to 9 plus 9. And because you're doing this 9 thing, making the numbers go back to 9, it connects neurons in our brain that have never touched or talked to each other. And what it does is it wires your brain up. Like
okay, well, this is all great for a new way of looking at math, new math, if you will. But again, we're looking at this crop circle, and we're trying to figure out what's anomalous about crop circles, period, whether they're made by man or they're made by somebody from somewhere else. And so there must have been you must have had some odd, maybe you didn't, odd reactions when you looked at this numerical matrix you came up with from this circle.
I did. I went through a lot of. I didn't see all the patterns. I didn't understand them. I showed them to teachers, and they didn't even see the patterns. I introduced it at the National Math Convention in America almost 5 years ago now, and I showed them this pattern about how everything goes back to 9 in the matrix and how it works. And I turned around and I said, "How many of you knew about this before today?" And there were 0 hands that went up in the air. And I said, "How many of you understand this and could use it in your classroom tomorrow to help your kids understand numbers better?" And every person in the room raised their hand. several hundred teachers that help teach teachers how to teach math. And that inspired me to figure out how to understand this so that I could communicate it clearly.
All right. Well, everybody in the world, my friend, is trying to figure out what the hell these crop circles mean. Not just this man-made one, but we're all trying to figure out what these crop circles mean. Is there a mathematical way to do exactly that, to figure out what they mean?
I believe so. And Simeon actually, as he was calling me from the field while they were putting this together, his experience really helped me understand that better, because I believe everything is a frequency. You know, every number has a frequency. All of our voices have a frequency, and it's just a matter of tuning in. You know, if you want everybody to hear your radio show tonight, Art, they have to tune into the exact right number frequency in their area to get it. If they're off by one, they're not going to hear it clearly. And I believe that's the same thing as the Roman numerals. They were designed to disguise the natural beauty and order of numbers to inhibit the human mind from understanding numbers as they truly are.
Scott, we've got a long, distinguished record now of crop circles, picture after picture after picture. Have you looked at any other crop circles?
Yeah, a lot of them, and it blows me away, the mathematical proportions, the geometrical aspect of it. It awakens something within my brain, and I don't know, I'm sure that happens to a lot of people. But it keeps taking me deeper and deeper, Art.
Okay, well, listen, buddy, I'm a neophyte. I'm a neophyte on all of this, but I know that there are some fascinating crop circles out there, and I'm just wondering if, for example, you could use what you have done here as sort of a key to look at some of the more complex circles that we've, particularly the ones that we believe are not man-made. And whether you could come up with any sort of meaning mathematically.
Yes, I believe this matrix is going to allow me and people like Simeon to do that, because it creates a measuring stick, a ruler, that you can transpose on top of these crop circles. And I believe that that is going to reveal patterns to help us better understand what those mean. They're like wake-up calls. They're alarm clocks for the human mind. And
all right, let me switch back for a second to Dr. Hine. Doctor, apparently, whether it's man-made or it's not man-made, some of the effects that you talked about, the electromagnetic effects and so forth, or whatever the effects are, don't begin to show up for some period of time until after the circle is created or made.
That's right.
How long, and what have you noticed?
That's right. In this case, it seemed to be about a day or two before we noticed some of these really weird effects.
Really?
It took about 2 or 3 days before it burnt out a video camera that I actually was able to touch, and it was like hot as a toaster. And it worked fine for years and years before that. And I think Scott's exactly right here. These crop formations are finely tuned resonant devices, just like a radio wave or a radio that receives signals like that. You know, if it's done just right, if it's tuned just right, and some crop circles are tuned better than others, you get all the ratios correctly, the diameters of the circles, the swirls inside. You'll notice in this math matrix, by the way, that in 3 of the outer circles there are double tufts, while the other 6 circles have single tufts.
That's right.
That's right. It's those double tufted circles that had the greatest effect on cameras for some unknown reason. So it's something about the math, that's kind of what Scott's getting at here. The mathematical precision of the circle, the mathematical ratios, the geometry of it, that creates a finely tuned device that whatever you actually believe it does, in my mind it works like a tuned liquid crystal, because if you look at the whole field of wheat, it's more like a liquid than a solid. You can actually shape it. And it works very much like a liquid crystal, like a flat screen display or something like that. When the pixels are all tuned just to the right frequency, and the mathematical, the twists and the turns of the wheat and the lay of it aligns to some frequency, you get these magical effects that we see.
All right. Both of you hold tight for a moment. My God, this is fascinating stuff, isn't it? If you've wondered about crop circles, and I think we all have, then maybe we're on to something. Maybe we're on to the key. I'm Art Bell. All right, we're on to some new information tonight. My guests are Dr. Simeon Hine, I'm holding him over a little bit, and Scott Flansburgh, the human calculator. And what are we on to tonight that we haven't been in the past? Well, that human-made, human-constructed crop circles, after a short period of time, which is in itself very interesting, begin to produce anomalous events like the locking up of cameras, electrostatic readings that jump around like crazy, electronics that go bad, a lot of very strange things. Then you combine that with the mathematics, the unusual brain of Scott Flansburgh, and we're definitely on to something here. The picture is on the coasttocoastam.com website. You'll see a total of 10 circles, actually, and numbers inside. I suggest you blow it up, leave it on the screen as we discuss it. We'll be right back. It is really interesting to me the way so many subjects on Coast to Coast AM sort of dovetail into each other. Now, in the last several weeks, we've been talking about other dimensions and mainly attributing what sightings we've had of things or creatures or whatever that appear to be coming from elsewhere. It all comes down to frequency. It all seems to come down to frequency. And here we are again tonight talking about the frequency of crop circles, or the frequency that's created by the way these circles are created. Do you, Doctor, do you think that that these are created for the most part by ETs, or it's kind of a mixture? Do UFOs really have something to do with a lot of the crop circles?
Well, they certainly have in the past. You know, Colin Andrews, who's been on the show in the past, you know, we think of him as kind of the grandfather of crop circle research. He has a registry of 50 people that have seen crop circles form, you know, the ones that form very quickly in the early hours of the morning. And those are basically simple circles or groups of circles. And in some cases, it does appear that UFOs are connected to crop circles. At least they were in the past, maybe 30 years ago, starting with the Tully saucer nests in Australia and so forth. So, and even in the United States, there's documentation showing flying discs associated with crop circles. But it seems to me that what the ETs may have been doing was creating a learning project for humans. And it may have been part of the whole idea for us to kind of take over the mantle of crop circle creation in order to learn all these fascinating scientific and mathematical principles that we're discovering. In other words, if the ETs had kept making them, we wouldn't be having this discussion we're having now. And it's part of the process for us to learn how to do this, because perhaps we're creating an advanced type of technology, or it's going to lead in that direction.
And perhaps we are. We're kind of stumbling around with it, perhaps with the exception of what Scott did here. Now, is there any indication that extraterrestrials or UFOs take an unusual interest in human-created crop circles?
There are a lot of photos of UFOs around human-made crop circles, and we've had a lot of reports from human circle makers that have seen a lot of strange things at night when they've been out there. I've talked to a lot of these circle makers, and they've seen balls of light and occasionally UFOs over the fields while they're making the circles. I even had an experience once out in the fields in England, seeing a very strange object that I was able to videotape for a few seconds. That was awfully unidentified to me. So I think that UFOs do have an interest in the crop circles, especially, Art, if you think about it. They could get a very quick reading of our level of spiritual and mathematical development just by looking at the circles we're making to get an idea of how sophisticated we are. I mean, you just have to look at them from the air, and you can get an idea of kind of what's going on in our heads. So I think there's a lot of reasons why ETs would be interested in human circles, and we've certainly discovered a lot by making them, and I'm sure the ETs are interested in this also.
All right, well, here's a follow-up question then. You said that certain segments of these circles produced more anomalous effects than others, right?
That's right.
Okay, then based on that knowledge, could you expand on that using those areas that had more of an effect, more of an anomalous effect than others, and create yet another circle, take it to the next level using what you learned from this circle and create something that would really be anomalous?
That's exactly right. You know, what we're beginning to see is if you create a circle with nested sort of fractal smaller circles within it,
yes,
you tend to get more of these anomalous effects. In this case, what we found is if we took one of those outer circles and then in the double tufted circles, as I call them, that particular circle maker that helped us to do that, that was actually his idea, spontaneously his idea, to take 3 and make them different from the other 6 out of the group of 9. that if you take that and you kind of divide it into smaller and smaller groups, you're kind of getting a nested fractal pattern. And that seems to be the key to a lot of waveguide technology that we read about. And it may be a clue to why some of these circles are more kind of electronically active than others, is they kind of have this nested ratio of spacing in certain circles where they divide into smaller circles within the smaller circles. I've also actually saw that also in the Devil's Den formation in 1999 in Fifield in Wiltshire, that actually also knocked out the first time I ever saw a lot of batteries knocked out at once. It affected our batteries. It affected about 5 different electronic devices within about 10 minutes that I saw with my own eyes. And that also had smaller nested circles. So I think that may be a clue to why we're getting that kind of effect, and that's to do with the way waveguides work.
All right, Doctor. A lot of times, as with, for example, space travel, we have no idea when a technological breakthrough is going to come. I mean, we just don't know. But with space travel and with our space program, there have been a whole lot of technological breakthroughs that we have achieved. Do you think that study of crop circles, even in their creation, as you have done here and perhaps in the next step, will eventually produce some kind of technological breakthrough?
I'm absolutely convinced of that, yes. It really seems that the more we experiment with this, what we realize is we're dealing with an advanced technology that we're just kind of treading around on like kindergartners. We're just kind of tweaking the knobs, and then something happens, and then someone like Scott Flansburgh comes along and gives us another design, and we don't even expect it ahead of time, but something happens. You know, we're all interested right now in this idea. Can we kind of connect with this kind of universe of dark energy and dark matter? Is it just something out there, or can we actually kind of tap into it a little bit, kind of the vacuum space where all that energy is that we know about, the zero-point field and so forth? And wouldn't it be exciting if these crop circles are kind of an avenue or a kind of a way that we can kind of start contacting that sort of energy through human-made designs that aren't even that sophisticated the way we make them, but their net result is some sort of technological result. So, yeah, I actually think that crop circles are a form of advanced technology. The circle makers call it natural magic. And I think of it as a form of a natural technology that has these very advanced electromagnetic or perhaps even quantum effects. And I want to introduce one more piece of evidence that supports that. In addition to this math matrix, I just want to point Coast listeners to the Milton Hill Farms crop circle, where Colin Andrews did a magnetometer study in year 2000. It's actually on the left side of the Opening Minds website in the pictures link. If you click on the link for pictures. In the magnetometer study, Colin Andrews actually went out to a crop circle at Milton Hill Farms, a small town in Wiltshire. And there was a crop circle there, like a Celtic cross, that was surrounding a tumuli. He didn't know the origin of this circle, but with a French engineer, Jean-Noël Aubray, they were actually able, during the day, to take magnetometer readings. If you look at the picture of the magnetometer readings, where you get these magnetic deviations fairly closely follows where you have the lay of the wheat in the crop circle. And so what we found from this study is that actually the crop circle changes the magnetic field alignment in the space where the crop circle is. Now, we later found out that this was a man-made circle. It was made by 5 people, and I was able to speak to 3 of them. I actually stayed in that town, Milton Hill Farms, the next year and was able to do some investigation. I'm convinced it was a man-made circle, having talked to the individuals that claim to have made it. I talked to them separately. In this case, we had another example of a man-made circle where the analysis was done without anybody knowing what created the circle. It could have been UFOs or ionic plasmas or whatever. But the magnetometer data shows us that the actual laying down the wheat in spiral shapes actually affects the magnetic field of the space. And in this case, within the circle, according to Colin, that magnetic north was off by 3 degrees in the swirled circles versus where it was from magnetic north outside the circle.
Dr. Hine, does it seem to matter whether a design like this is created in wheat, on the face of the earth, or whether you could take, a big giant piece of plastic or something and lay it out on some concrete somewhere and create a design like this and come up with the same anomalous effects, or is this only done in fields of wheat?
Well, most of my experience has been in wheat fields because most of the crop circles are done in wheat. But, they're also done in oats, in barley. I've been in some of those that have been made in barley.
Yes.
We've had the static effects in the barley, too. And in this country, we had some in soybeans a couple of years ago over in I believe it was in Ohio or Indiana.
Do you
And
see
that,
the direction of my question? However, in other words, is it the actual shape only, or is it where that shape is created?
Well, that's right. And what we found in all of these, all the different plant materials create these strange effects. So it leads me to believe that it's the natural material that actually, I think it's the crystalline structure, like the silica within the wheat, and in the soil, that actually allows it to have these anomalous materials. There's a whole class of materials, Art, in material science called metamaterials. Metamaterials are natural materials that have exotic properties when you kind of arrange them in a certain shape. So I see these crop circles as metamaterials. Some of these metamaterials create invisibility. They're actual objects you can't see because they just bend light. And if these crop circles are bending magnetic fields or bending other sorts of energy fields or affecting the flow of electricity in the area, then they're acting like a metamaterial. And to answer your question, it's because they're based on a natural material which has a natural crystalline component within it that creates those effects rather than something like plastic. But, it's a great experiment to do, and we simply don't have the answer until we create plastic in the shape of a crop circle like this, and we could see what happens.
So many questions to be answered. I mean, just the fact that you got all of these anomalous effects from a circle that you made yourself with the help of Scott is just blows my mind, and it just begs for further experiments based on particularly what you found about those specific areas. So are there plans to go to the next step?
Well, right. We've been talking with Scott to do one in this country even larger than the one we did over at Woodborough Hill to see if we can, for Scott's purposes, to see if we can recreate the circle again, even maybe make the biggest one ever around the math matrix. And, of course, we're going to be looking very carefully when we do that to see if we can recreate some of these anomalies. Because, honestly, it's the last thing I ever expected when I started this project with my colleagues, that this was going to blow out batteries and cameras and video camcorders. I mean, I just thought we're making it. It's just going to be a man-made formation.
This is a definite breakthrough. Scott, are you prepared to go to the next step? If Dr. Hine wants you to go and look at what created the most anomalous effects and then sort of jump to the next step from there, are you ready to do that?
100%. I am looking forward to it. I really feel like we've figured out a way to get this idea out there. And like Simeon said, we didn't know any of this would happen. It was so exciting to hear from him out there, and just you could hear it in his voice that there was just stuff happening that was grabbing his attention. And it really inspired me to figure out what we needed to do next. So, yeah, Simeon has some great ideas. We have great opportunities, even in Australia, other places, and everybody around the world. If you did this in English, most people around the world wouldn't be able to speak or understand it, but everybody on the planet understands this communication clearly.
Mm-hmm. Doctor, again, back to you. These crop circles apparently radiate energy into the air. Did you learn anything at all? Were you able to learn anything at all? I mean, is it a perfect cone, for example, going straight up from these crop circles? Is there any indication of how far up it goes? Maybe it keeps on going right through the ionosphere. I mean...
It's a great question, and in fact, what we found is it happened when we were exactly over the crop circle. When that ultralight was right over the crop circle is when the camera failed and when it started malfunctioning. And I believe other pilots have found it to happen when they're right over the crop circle. Now, I've talked to Busty Taylor about this phenomenon. He's probably flown more crop circles than anybody else because he discovered some of the first ones back in 1985 when they started appearing in England. And he said it's never happened to him in his Cessna. Now, he's flying at a higher level than we're flying in our ultralight, which is, the lowest altitude you can go with an ultralight is about 500 feet. So you can get pretty close to it. And he hasn't found it because in his Cessna, he's probably flying at a few thousand feet or higher. So maybe there is a limit to how far it goes up. Because I'll tell you something, it certainly seems that there's a limit to how far it goes out laterally in the field, across the field. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense, perhaps, there's just a height limit to how far these energies go up. Maybe they only go up a few thousand feet or less.
I wonder how far down they go.
Well, that's the interesting thing, in this Milton Hill Farms crop circle of 2000, it appeared to Colin like there were magnets buried in the ground, but we don't know that the circle makers buried any magnets. I mean, strong magnets. So he actually thought that the effect was coming from below the Earth. So it could be going above, below, and to the side at the same time. I mean, and you're right, Art. There's so much about this we don't know, but it's really exciting to play around with it and get these effects at all.
It really is exciting. I mean, everything you've told us tonight so far is exciting because this is a man-made circle. This is a man-made circle, and we're getting these effects. So,
it appears that it's aligning the energy in the space, and just the way it occurs to me that Scott's math matrix kind of aligns our minds to handle mathematics in an easier way, the way he can add numbers so quickly. It appears to kind of align the space so that you're getting contact with some other type of energy, or dare I say a dimension, that you normally don't get contact with, and that's why you get these balls of light and frequent UFO sightings. It's kind of creating another sort of space there and aligning perhaps the dark energy or something like that. That idea is not so far-fetched, because even Ingo Swann at the most recent remote viewing conference talked about remote viewing being connected to dark energies. That, in other words, our minds are kind of intertwined with this kind of dark universe that we can't see, but physicists tell us is there. Perhaps the crop circles are creating a connection to that dark energy also, and this math matrix that we made is kind of connecting in a way we never even expected would happen.
Okay, is there anything that that you can name that distinguishes a real crop circle? And when I say real and genuine, I mean something made by other than man from one made by man, because you're getting these anomalous effects with this crop circle. So that kind of puts it all back. I mean, I've heard, for example, that the wheat has molecular changes in crop circles supposedly made by UFOs that is not present in those made by man.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced by those particular studies. I mean, as Colin mentioned the last time he was on the show, I mean, when the BLT team was given different control samples, man-made circles, and even wind damage, they weren't able to distinguish the so-called authentic ones from the man-made formations from the molecular structure. So I'm not sure we're able to do that yet. And let me just tell you, I've only been studying these since 1997. I never saw those original ones that Collins talked about so much. I would love to see one of those original phenomena, but I think most of the ones I've seen in England were actually created by people. Of course, I can't really prove that for sure. It's just my kind of feeling about it. But it's even more interesting in some ways if humans are doing this, we're getting these effects, and the original phenomena creates these effects too, then maybe there really isn't a difference. I mean, maybe what's going on is once the formation is there, that's what's creating the energy, rather than some sort of mysterious beam of light coming down from a UFO and zapping the field. Now, those exist. I mean, my colleague Ron Russell actually went out to a field in Nebraska where the farmer's wife said she was sitting on the porch, and this UFO came over, and this pencil-thin blue beam of light came down into the field and kind of left these zigzag patterns. And Ron went out and looked at it, and he said it looked kind of like graffiti in this Timothy grass. So that was sort of an energy being released by a UFO. But I suspect, because we found these enlarged nodes, even in our own formations, we found that in Cheryl in 2003, where we paid a farmer and used his field to make kind of a waveguide type shape, that it's, once the crop formation is there, it's kind of like a self-organizing system. You have these static charges, you have these kind of crystalline effects, and perhaps these superconducting energies, and whatever it is, it kind of grows over a period of a couple of days, and then it kind of starts affecting things. So that
all right, Dr. Hine, listen, we're at a break point, and I'm going to let you go. I've held you over a little bit, and because I wanted to get all of this out. You've certainly stumbled into something very serious, Dr. Hine. I don't know what, and I don't think you know what just yet, but you've stumbled into something very serious, and I want to thank you for appearing on tonight's show.
Take care.
All right, thank you, and take care. Dr. Simeon Hine. When we come back, we'll continue with Scott Flansburgh, the human calculator. This is incredible stuff when you think about it. From Manila in the Philippines, I'm Art Bell. Sure is. My guest is Scott Flansburgh, otherwise known as the human calculator, the 2001 Guinness World Record fastest human calculator. As a matter of fact, his brain works in ways that we can't even really consider. And so we'll explore that a little bit with him in a moment. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM. Three really gigantic topics that I want to cover with Scott Flansburgh. One is September 11th, 2001. Another is the Mayan calendar. And a third is numerical patterns in the Bible. That's a lot to cover in one segment, but let's try it. Scott, why did they pick September 11th, 2001?
It's an amazing amazing day, Art. Mathematically speaking, it adds up. I'll just go through some of the numbers with you, and just my experience in life is through numbers. It's like I have a pair of glasses on.
Yes.
Like the 00 on the beginning of the Matrix that just allows me to see things through numbers. And so I don't know if I'm right or wrong. I just know that this is what I see and I experience. So I'll just throw it by you. But 9/11 is the 254th day of the year. And 9/11 is all about the two towers, and that's a 1-1. It's the big number 11. And the number 11 is very interesting because it's 1-1 are the first two numbers in what's called the Fibonacci series, which is the series of numbers where you just keep adding it up. You go 1 + 1 is 2, 1 + 2 is 3, 2 + 3 is 5, and it creates a pattern, and it matches everything in nature. And that's why 4, you don't find 4 in nature. 4-leaf clovers are an anomaly of nature, and that's the first number that's not a Fibonacci number. So the towers represent that 1-1. It's the economic center. And New York City has 11 letters. New York is the 11th state of America. George W. Bush has 11 letters. Ramsey Youssef, I don't know if I said that right, but his name has 11 letters. The first plane that hit was Flight 11. And it had 92 passengers, which 9 + 2 adds up to 11. The second plane was Flight 77, which is obviously 11 times 7. And they had 65 passengers on that plane, and 6 + 5 is 11. 911 is our emergency number. At 911 adds up to 11. 9/11 is the $20 bill. You and I talked about this once before. You know, everybody says the $20 bill has the symbols of the towers going down.
Right.
And you know, I've studied that and I've looked at it, and it's just amazing that on the $20 bill, when you do these two folds, and you can find that on the internet anywhere to do it. This bill was created, modified in September of 1998. Well before the incident, and when you fold it up, the thing you see on the towers, when the towers there's burning going on, they haven't fallen yet. On the left side of the bill is the word American, and that was the American Airlines flight. And on the right-hand side of the bill is the word United, right next to the other tower, and the other plane was a United Airlines jet. And when you fold up the $20 bill, you have to fold it up to look like an airplane to allow these symbols to pop out. So it actually, the planes that knocked it down are the shape you have to make the $20 bill in to reveal these patterns. And the $20 bill, 9/11, if you do 9 + 11, that equals 20. So when you look at all those things, and the other thing is it was the 254th day of the new millennium, and There were a total of 254 passengers on the planes.
Okay, is all this coincidence, or is it so far numerically beyond coincidence?
Well, I don't believe in the word coincidence. I really think that's us trying to grasp a deeper sense of reality.
Oh, I disagree with that, Scott. There are coincidences. I mean, come on, there are.
Give me an example, Art. What's an example of a coincidence? Just something, a recent coincidence for you. It's deja vu, coincidence. I understand why people might believe in those things, but from a numerical perspective, there's no coincidences. If there were coincidences, the lottery might be a little easier to figure out. There's just a lot of things that are explained naturally through numbers that coincidence isn't really part of the equation. And so that's just how I see it. I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
But can't you take a series of numbers, as you have done with the number of passengers on any given aircraft, and sort of make them work after the fact?
Yes, I believe you can interpret numbers. You can manage numbers to say what you want. People do it every day in business and statistics and.
Well, not what you just did. Isn't that what you just did?
Well, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, it's not like I had to twist the numbers around or anything. I mean, they're all very simple addition facts. There's so many of them. And the fact that New York City is the 11th state, and there's 11 letters in New York City and all that. Sure, you can call it coincidence if you want, but I try to find deeper meaning in things, and I really believe that we live in a time dimension that it's just a momentary lapse of reason, and we're in this time where it's like a lesson we're learning for some higher understanding that we're going to go through. You talk about paradigm shifts and dimensions and things like that, and I think between Y2K, 9/11, and all the things that are happening in the world today, this is time for that
Okay,
shift.
but Scott, my name is Arthur W. Bell.
Right.
11 letters.
And here we are on 9/11, and what's really weird about today, Art, you picked
Not yet.
Oh, sorry,
we picked today. It's not 9/11 yet.
What do you mean?
It's not the 11th yet.
Oh, no, I mean, what's really interesting about today, that you chose today to do this show, is 9/11, 2001. They're trying to figure out all these patterns of why they chose that date, and some people said it was because Osama's friend got killed on that date or something. There's a lot of different ideas. But then Madrid, the train bombings in Madrid happened exactly 911 days later. And, that was in March of 2004. And here we are today, and today is exactly 911 days from Madrid. And we're getting ready to experience, our anniversary of the five years here. So, maybe there's nothing to that. But at the same time, I really feel I see things through numbers, and I believe numbers are a wake-up call for myself to understand what I'm trying to do. And so that's how I interpret it.
Yeah, who am I to say? I mean, you do see everything through numbers, as you point out. All right, let's jump ahead. Everybody, including myself, is very, very curious about the Mayans and their calendar. Of course, they stopped at, 12/21/2012, something like that, right?
12/21/12.
And everybody wants to know why they stopped there. Does this mean the end of time? Is it just when they got sick of making calendars? Is it, what?
Yes, it's unbelievable mathematics again. The Mayans were all about the number 13. They had a 13-month calendar. They celebrated 13 in all ways, and they made a prediction that the end of time was going to be on December 21st, 2012, and we're rapidly approaching that date. And I think that might be a misinterpretation. I don't think it's the end of time. I believe they mean it's the end of time as we know it. And it's the end of this calendar that dominates our world, which is called the Gregorian calendar. It's the old modified Roman calendar. And like I explained to you early in the show, that all the Roman numerals add up to 666, and it disguises us from understanding numbers. I believe the calendar had that same intent. It disguised us from understanding time, because I'm also a human calendar. Art, you can pick any date, and I can calculate within a second or two what day of the week it was on.
June 17th, 1945.
Sunday.
Damn.
And,
that's right. Father's Day is Sunday, as a matter of fact.
Yes, and June 17th falls on Sunday. There's a pattern to it, but there's an algorithm that I can do in my mind. And Art, I was in the Air Force, and my supervisor's kid failed math, and he asked me to help him out. And the school called me up after that, and then the district called me up after that. And I got out of the Air Force to start doing this human calculator thing. And I was leaving on 8/8/88, and I had nothing left. I had to, forfeit whatever I had left. It's a long story. But anyway, I was sitting in front of a public library in West Palm Beach, Florida, waiting for a plane ride that my sister had bought me to move to Phoenix. And I found a little book in the library, and this guy had an idea that there's a pattern to the calendar. And so I sat down, I studied it for a little bit, I wrote it out, and I got on the plane later that day. And when I landed in Phoenix, Arizona, I had this formula wired into my brain, and any date I hear, I can calculate the day of the week. And it happens instantly. And so to understand time and the way that we organize it and see it now, and to be able to do what 99.9% of the population can't do, knowing what day their birthday or Christmas is going to be, or any other day for that matter, this calendar's turned off our brain to time. It doesn't allow us to understand time around us. It's a man-made ruler of time. And if we had a ruler with 12 inches on it, and all the inches were different lengths, we'd have a lot of problems We wouldn't be able to measure things, and that's how our calendar is. It's a measurement of time, and there's 12 months, but every month has a different length.
That's right.
It doesn't allow us to know what day of the week anything is on, and so on 9/9/99, that day that I discovered the 9 theory and the matrix, was a total. Well, it wasn't supposed to be that way. That was the day I was introducing my calendar that I've invented that's based off the Mayan calendar. It's called the human calendar, and it incorporates the 13-month concept, and every month has 28 days. And what it does is 28 is a perfect number because it's 4 weeks. Every month has the same number of days. It's easy mental math for us, and every number would always be the same day of the week. The first. What
happens to your calendar during a leap year?
Well, I'm working on that. I'm going to introduce I have 4 options on how to correct that, and I'm going to introduce that in 2012 because what's really strange, Art, is this is the first year, 2005, that starts on a Sunday, and I have a 0 day as the first day of the year on my calendar because 13 times 28 is only 364. So that's why I'm trying to learn how to count 0 in all things we do, and time is obviously the most relevant.
Okay, so you're still working on that.
Well, it's done. The calendar, you can download that for free at thehumancalendar.com, and all I did was line up the 365 days of this year under a 13-month, 28 days, because my calendar has to have a Sunday as the first day, and this year did that, and it doesn't happen again until 2012. And so in 2012, I will show people how to manage the leap year as well as manage a 365-day year so that everybody would be a human calendar and know what day of the week every date's on. And as far as the Mayan calendar goes, I combine 2 things. The Mayan calendar makes the prediction of December 21st, 2012, and the Bible talks about at the end of time there's going to be a 7-year apocalypse. And if you add those 2 together, at the end of 2012 plus 7, you end up at the end of year 2019. And I believe that the year 2020 will be that year that we see time clearly as it was meant to be. And so it's a symbolic number, 2020 vision. And so that's when I believe that this calendar, this human calendar that's a basic Mayan calendar, incorporating the number 0, which they knew about, but they called it the day out of time. They didn't number it. And numbering it with 0 is what makes the difference. And so I believe that we're going to go through a transition. We're going to get rid of this Roman calendar that we're using because today, Art, is September 9th. And the word sept is the Latin word for 7. But September is the 9th month. When you say 9/11, you say September 11th, you're literally saying 7/11. And right. 7/11 are the lucky numbers, and I believe that our luck ran out that day on 9/11.
You don't think that the people who hijacked those aircraft and attacked us knew the kind of numerical answers to the questions with regard to how many people were on a given aircraft, the flight numbers? You mentioned the 254th day of the year. They could not possibly, Scott, have known all of this prior to their actions.
All of them except for the number of passengers on the plane. The flight numbers could be chosen because
that's
true.
Yes.
Everything you said is possible except for the number of passengers. So if you want to call that a coincidence, that's cool. But I really do think that whoever came up with this plan thought this out because these are religious-based ideas, and religion and calendars. You know, religion is just man trying to avoid the end of time of their own. You know, death.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So religion and time all come together, and I mean, why wouldn't they take the time to consider all these numbers? They have the people, they have the time, and they understand us. I mean, you know, we're English is the most dominant language on the planet, so it's not like we're a third world country.
Mm-hmm. You talk about number patterns in the Bible, Scott. There are people doing, as you know, Bible code work. Now, if they're not using the number 0 in their work, is it valid?
Well, 0, I believe, is the number that answers the question about a creator. You know, before there was one, there was none, and there were no trees.
My point. That's my point exactly.
So yeah, I think zero is going to answer a lot of questions that we just couldn't comprehend or understand not so long ago.
Yes, but if those people doing the Bible code work were to use zero, that would change every result they've come up with so far, which is pretty impressive when you look at it.
It's very impressive, and I have a theory about that, Art. Thank you for asking about that, because I hope somebody's listening that might take this up. But I believe that, well, the Bible is just all numbers, and if you can't read the original language of the Bible, it's Hebrew and Greek, and every letter in their alphabet is also their numbers. So every word in the Bible, every letter is a number, and I believe there's many dimensions of numbers there. And I think America, this is just my guess, Art, but I think America is here for a reason. It just appeared out of nowhere in the past few hundred years. Everybody else has been around and, pretty developed, and we're a very young country. It's all about timing. It happened for a reason. There's 13 colonies. And so if every American has a Social Security number with 9 digits in it, and I believe that if one of these Bible code guys would stick a 0 in front of our Social Security numbers and punch in this number pattern to the proper algorithm, it would reveal all basic facts about each and every one of us here in this country. And so it's just an idea, but the Bible really blew me away, Art, because I'm not always I'm a Christian now, but I was not even until 99. In 1999, I went through like a personal Y2K with numbers. I invented the calendar, I discovered the 9 pattern, the matrix, a lot of stuff was going on, and that was the year that I became a Christian. And for many years, I had very close personal friends that asked me to go to Bible study and things like that. And what I promised them is I'd go listen to their Bible studies, but what I wanted to do is look at the Bible from a numerical perspective. And there's 3 things that blew me away. First off, the first letter, the first sentence of the Bible has mathematical patterns about the number 7 that are unbelievable. It would take a supercomputer to figure out a language that you could insert all these 7s into one sentence. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The last word in the Bible is amen. And if you add up the letters without even knowing what the word is, it adds up exactly to 99. And I believe that's the marker. That's an end-of-file marker that we went through Y2K because computers were all wired to end at 99. So we didn't know if at the end it was 9999 or December 31st, 1999. So the Bible ends with the word 99. And then the really it's just amazing about the Bible is there's 1,188 chapters in the Bible. And if you divide that by 2, you get 594 and 594. And if you go to the dead middle of the Bible, it's Psalm 118:8. And if you add up all the chapters, it's 1,188. And the exact center of the Bible is Psalm 118:8. And before Psalm 118 is Psalm 117, which is the shortest chapter in the Bible. And the one after it, Psalm 119, is the longest chapter in the Bible. And the center verse of the Bible says, "It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man." That is the exact center of the Bible, and I believe it's for those people on the fence about how they feel about it.
All right, Mr. Mann, hold it right there. We're at the top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to open the lines for Scott Flansburgh, the human calculator from Manila in the Philippines. Boy, this has been a fascinating one. I'm Art Bell. This is Coast to Coast AM. Hello, everybody. Barbara from Las Vegas, Nevada, not far from my old home, says, "Hey, Art, I've listened to you since 1989. I can remember you're saying there are no coincidences, and now you're saying there are. When did that change?" Barbara, never. I think George is the one who says there are no coincidences, not myself. Here's the way it lines up for me. If everything is orchestrated and everything is connected in such a way that there are no coincidences, that means we're all sort of marionettes, and the little strings are being pulled, and we're acting out a predestined everything. And I just don't believe that. I believe in this nasty old, what was it from that movie? Free will's a bitch, right? So I think there is this free will thing, and I don't think we're all acting out a completely predestined, numerically sequential life. I just don't believe that. My guest does, though. He's Scott Flansburgh, and he'll be back, and we'll get on the phones with you in a moment. Scott, we're about to go to the phones, but Todd from Castaic, California says, Art, this human calendar your guest is speaking of is what the LAPD uses for their scheduling. It's called the deployment schedule. It's based on a 28-day cycle with 13 months, and the schedule always starts on a Sunday. Sound familiar?
That's so beautiful to hear. I hope every company in America will use that so that all our paychecks fall on a regular day. Everybody would know what day they're supposed to go to work. It would make life so much easier.
Okay. Let's go to the lines and see what's out there. First-time caller line, you're on the air with the Human Calculator, Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hey, how are y'all this morning?
Okay.
Good. Good. What I was calling about is he's talking about these numbers in the Bible. I thought the numeric system was in my concordance, but it's not. Do you happen to have a website where I can find these numbers so I can search out like that?
I don't. I'm working on a book about numbers in the Bible, but it's not going to come out till 999. So it's quite a ways away. But there is the one book that really blew me away. As before I became a Christian, right in that year 99, there was a book called The Pattern and the Prophecy by, I think it's James Harrison. And he went into the math of it, triangular numbers in the Bible, like the number of fish Jesus pulled out of the nets when they put it to the other side, all kinds of these fascinating, not coincidences. I mean, all the numbers in the Bible are triangular. It's just amazing. So I just think it defies the odds there to be a coincidence. But if you look up that, and if you go online and you start doing, I don't do the Bible code stuff. I think that's fascinating, and I hope they have amazing breakthroughs with that. But that's not where I focus my time. I'm trying to figure out from just a pure numerical perspective on a different level of what it might mean.
Okay. East of the Rockies, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Is this east of the Rockies?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I have a question. Can you take the numeral of pi and apply it to the expansion of the universe?
Well, I guess you could if you had a lot of free time and that was what you were into. But I don't spend much time doing that. I think pi is fascinating. It's an amazing number. It defines circles. It's just shows you the beauty of the natural shape of a circle and how amazing it is. So, but no, I haven't gone that deep.
Okay.
And Art, can I mention something? You at the beginning of the hour here, you said something about predestination.
I did. I did indeed.
Can I just throw something at you about that?
You may. Yes, go ahead.
Well, just from a mathematical perspective or Christian perspective combined, whatever you want to call it, but predestination is a tough subject, and I'm not going to go too down that road because I know it's very controversial. But there's difference, I believe, between predestination and what is called prophecy. Prophecy doesn't mean a prediction. Prophecy is a fulfillment of something written down, and I really think that if there is a creator, that this creator would live outside of time. And humans have a time span. And just because the creator would know from the beginning to the end of that story doesn't mean that he predetermined it. Or the creator just laid it out for us to sort of show us. I mean, it's a wake-up call. And if you do the math, the statistics of the prophecies that have been fulfilled in the Bible are mind-boggling. And there's not one that hasn't that failed. Not one.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
Yeah, statistically, it just blew me away.
First time caller line, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hi. I have two questions. First of all, and I don't want to come across as skeptical because I love numerology and I'm fascinated by everything that your guest is saying. But America definitely has a predilection for pop culture and sort of over-the-top events and movies. And I couldn't help but notice a couple of years after 9/11, there was a documentary on the making of the Towering Inferno, and my jaw dropped when the revelation was made that movie was completed on September 11th, 1974. Wow. And I'm wondering if that isn't the taking the lead from Contact, my favorite movie, and Occam's Razor, the simplest explanation is sometimes the best. Maybe that was the inspiration.
It could be. I did not hear that until you just said that. I never knew that. And Contact is a great movie, and it's, the first contact from these ETs is numbers. If you remember the movie, yes. they do the prime numbers. And so I really, that's why I feel that numbers are such a powerful language.
And that leads me to my second question. You had said that it might be interesting to do a Bible code search with the proper algorithm by taking a 0 and placing it in front of a person's social security number. And I was wondering why that? Why the social security number? Why wouldn't it be perhaps more revealing if, in a related way to the way that you see numerical patterns in Roman numerals, if you were to take the numeric equivalents of the letters in everyone's name and do a search based on some sort of a number string, based on the position of the letter in the alphabet of someone's native language rather than a social security number?
Well, when I first came up with this idea about taking 0 in front of social security numbers, it really almost came off more like a movie script, just to, blow people away with numbers and see what they could do. But it goes deeper than that for me. I had this discovery about the 9 thing on 9/9/99, and I happen to live in Phoenix, Arizona. And Phoenix, the last 2 letters of Phoenix are IX, and that's the Roman numerals for 9. And it was the state of Arizona, and the initials for the state of Arizona are AZ, and the first and last letter of the alphabet are A through Z. And so it just sort of resonated. It all added up that I just wanted to see how far I could go with this, and that's when I came up with this idea of the Bible code, because I studied it for a little while, and it's overwhelming, and I don't speak Hebrew or Greek, and so I really couldn't go too far down that road, and I just wanted to see what I could do with it from my side. So
no, but again, with what little I understand, Scott, of what you've told me about numeric systems, the Bible code is based not on your numeric system, but on our numeric system, so that if you were to take a 0 and throw it into the mix as a number, the whole darn Bible code would be wrong.
I don't think so. I think that this is what it is, and it's supposed to be for the time that they discovered this. I just think that this new 0 is a revelation that will line things up even clearer and even reveal another dimension to the Bible. What I believe is this supercomputer that's just all numbers, that's going to allow us to see that there was somebody ahead of time that had a computer, maybe, or just like ETs, are they time travelers from the future? So that's where I started with that.
Okay, Wildcard Line, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Yes, what a delight, Ed, to hear Scott and your other guests. I hope you'll bring the other guests back for a longer time. But Scott, I really want to encourage you, because you are just vibrating, some experiences that I have had that just fit right into place. And I'm wondering if you know. I want to make a brief comment and then ask him to deal with 2 or 3 things, and I'll hang up and listen over the air. But young man, I think you're definitely going in the right direction. About 15 years ago, so I attended a seminar it was at Columbia University in New York City, and this was a young man, a professor who had taken the Kemetic, the Egyptian calendar, which turned out, as we studied it, of 13 months, and he had done something what you're working on. So I wish you good luck in getting it out. It's very important to understand time. And I also think, Art, that he's, in terms of around 9/11, and first of all, I'm one of the nice and gracious people, even if you disagree with me. But I think that he's on the right track, and either on coast or maybe locally in New York. I heard someone say that Jordan Maxwell, who has been with George on coast, said that 9/11, Scott, was also 2,000 years from the beginning of the Ethiopian calendar. So I think you're right on track, and and it's no accident, because the people who really deal with the occult, they're the ones in the secret societies and the ruling elite. But getting to my question, do you know Professor Gabriel Oyibo who went around the world recently and met with mathematical scholars around his equation, and I can't actually give you the equation, but it's all around zero and something about God, and it's along the lines. Are you familiar with his work?
It's funny you brought that up. I just got some stuff on that. A couple people sent me emails about it, so I haven't studied it yet, but I'm looking forward to it because it does rhyme with the things that I'm working on, and so it was fascinating to know that somebody else was doing that. But I'm hoping that a lot of people and the mathematicians around the world help us figure out ways to see where we're missing zero and to learn how to count zero. And you're in New York, and one thing I'm hoping that on 9/11 this year that people will consider in America is that our floors in our buildings in America are numbered starting at 1 and going up. And plus they skip 13 of all things. So I hope that American buildings will consider renumbering their floors so that the ground floor is 0 in recognition of 9/11 and ground zero.
And that ends up with somebody being on 13, right?
Well, when you count 0, 13 isn't the 13th number anymore. You know, these English words throw us off, Art. The word first makes us associate the number 1 with it. It's all about number 1. First is number 1. But really, the first number is 0. The second number is 1. And so the 13th number is really 12.
Okay, well, yes, but in the current situation that we have, people on the 14th floor are actually on the 13th floor no matter what they call it anyway, right?
Exactly. And what's funny about 13 and being unlucky, Art, I think it goes back to Jesus and his 12 disciples, because the Romans didn't want him around. They didn't like what he was saying, and so they referred to him and his disciples as that 13. And he was crucified on Friday the 13th, on the 13th hour. And so maybe they were just trying to get a message across that 13 is not a good number, and this guy, and his 12 disciples aren't a good idea. So that's just my best guess.
All right. West of the Rockies, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much, both of you. This has been so fascinating. My name is Nan. I'm calling from Portland, Oregon, by the way. I've been math challenged and numerically challenged, I suppose, my whole life. So I've been just fascinated and a little bit overwhelmed, actually, by this whole discussion and all the various dimensions of it. But before I actually ask you my question, I wanted to just briefly wish my friend Todd in Eastern Oregon good luck if he's listening, which he usually is. I missed a little bit right after I turned my radio off, so forgive me if you've been asked this. I was going to ask you what you thought about numerology, and if you've already covered this and I missed it, the other thing that occurred to me was sacred geometry, and if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, numerology, there's two numerologies. There's a small n numerology and a capital N numerology, and I really think that it's the human ego trying to use numbers and horoscopes to make themselves more significant or meaningful. So I don't study that. I don't waste my time or energy on that. And if there is something to it, I'll be bummed out when I find out and see how many years I missed. But if I don't, that's okay, because it's for me, numbers make perfect sense, and numerology just was so appealing, and trying to suck me in. I could just feel it, and I really felt like it was a distraction because I'm a human calculator, and when I'm not a calculator, I'm just human. I'm just a regular guy, and I really feel like tuning into that aspect because I always see things through numbers. It's a distraction. It's an easy way to excuse being, not to be socially responsible or acceptable for that matter, because I'm distracted all the time. And so I didn't want numerology to take me even deeper down that rabbit hole.
Okay. Sacred geometry.
Sacred geometry. I am a high school dropout, and I've never been to college in my life. So I never really got deep into geometry. But every time I look at it or I try to understand it, like the golden mean ratio and things like that, Fibonacci, it just, I get chills. I mean, because it's such a divine and ordered language, that no other language that man has created can compare to.
Have you thought of continuing, because of your ability, Scott, have you thought of continuing your education, particularly mathematics?
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to that, too. I wanted to wait till after, I have a few more years here to make sure that the 9 concept and the matrix and my calendar all get done. And so I'm just going to commit a few more years to that, and then I look forward to pursuing those the rest of my life.
You certainly have a gift. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi. Hello?
0.
Going once.
Hello?
Massachusetts, Richard, going twice. Yes. Yes, speak.
Art, it's great to see you back on the air.
Thank you.
I have a question on the number 7s in the Bible. I noticed that there are 42 generations in Matthew chapter 1, verse 17. And that has a lot to do. It makes connections with the last generation, the 1967 war between the Israelis and I was wondering what Scott thought about that.
Well, I studied that for a little while because the number 7 is obviously a very special number in the Bible. 7 days the earth was created, all these things. But then just to test myself, I chose any other random number and said, okay, now just dig in and go in and find every nuance about that number and search for it. And like Art said earlier, I mean, it's a choice. I mean, I could get obsessed with one of those and find it in anything. And so I found with my mathematical skills that did happen. That, I said, okay, let's go to 6. What happens when you go to 6 and all of a sudden there's all these 6s and there are 9s and 5s. It's everywhere.
But see, what you're really just saying right now, Scott, is that there are coincidences. And you have to pick between what you think is a coincidence and what really has some profound numerical meaning.
Well, the human mind is a powerful tool, and I just think that we can make it anything we want to. It seems like a coincidence, but it's really us just going off. So I'm not going to go there, Art. I'm not going to use
all
the
right,
word.
Scott. I won't force you there. All right, stand by.
We're predestination or coincidence, but.
All right, bottom of the hour. Scott Flansburgh is my guest. We have one more segment to go from Manila in the Philippines. I'm Art Bell. No question about it. The man has a gift. Scott Flansburgh is my guest. He's the human calculator, and we're talking, about numbers. You're welcome to join us. I'm Art Bell, and this is Coast to Coast AM. Dave from Louisville, Kentucky, fast blast me that, hey, I just heard a police siren over Art's mic. No, actually you didn't. You heard a police siren over Scott's telephone, probably coming after him for some numbers violation. Scott?
I'm at a hotel in downtown Minneapolis, and I have all the windows open because it's like 60 degrees, Art, and I live in Phoenix. We haven't seen 60 degrees in 5 months. So I'm just trying to take it in, and, sure enough, something happened down here.
Okay, wildcard line. I think it's from West Virginia. You're on the air.
Hi there. This is Bob. I'm from West Virginia, and I wanted to ask your guest if he understood that creating patterns of matter and energy here on the Earth can influence or create corresponding patterns of energy in the greater universe. I think it was Pythagoras who said that the whole of a thing is equal to the sum of its parts. And if you arrange certain elements or, like bend over plants and point their plant-type life energies in a circle, it will create a vortex within the subtle energies of both the Earth and the universe as a whole, and create changes in the universe as a whole. The ancients understood this in terms of spiral temples, that kind of thing, like Stonehenge. And,
so, caller, you're relating this to the earlier discussion of the anomalous effects of the created crop circle.
Affirmative.
Yeah. I guess, Scott, you agree with that, right?
Well, I do, Art. And, energy is once again measured in numbers. Everything is. There's nothing that's not. And so I don't know the impact that this in particular thing will have, the mathematical matrix or the 0 through 9 and how that's developed now over the past several hundred years. And we're really just coming around to it now. It's just taken that long to get the message around, and only in this, really our generation has it been our ability to communicate with each other on such a high level. And so it's time for it.
Okay. Joanne, I believe in Los Angeles, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Yeah, hi. This is Joanne from Los Angeles. I'm going back to the crop circle with the numbers that you say. I didn't see the picture of it, but
It's still up on Joanne, it's still on the website, coasttocoastam.com. So if you get a chance to get up there, take a look.
I will. I'm going to look at it. When you do constructions in geometry, like you get the 3 angle bisectors, you end up getting a point where that ends up being like an in-center point where the circle is inscribed in a triangle. If you get perpendicular bisectors, you get the circle circumscribed around the triangle. You call that like the circumcenter. But if you get the 3 medians, and on this triangle, if you construct them, the point where they intersect, they call it the centroid, and that's like the center of gravity. Now, when we do the constructions, it's like on a flat surface, and I'm just thinking maybe in space there's no such thing as a flat surface, that maybe it's curved somehow. So maybe the crop circle, like with all these different constructions, somehow maybe where they're overlapping. What I was thinking is like the numbers could represent maybe degree measures or ratios of between the two, all the different points, and maybe somehow that, or maybe the ratio of the radii and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just thinking maybe that if we could build something like that, it might like somehow like recreate what's happening in the crop circle. So that was just like an idea that I had.
Well, it's been fascinating. Simeon Hine, Peter Sorensen, and these guys that did this crop circle for me are so smart, and they're so experienced in not only this, but they love everything you're talking about and so much more. I've been overwhelmed with information and opportunities and ideas about how to implement this matrix, and it's very exciting. At the same time, I'm trying to stay grounded to make sure that the educational impact is felt first, because I believe many things can happen from there, and it's no different from when I go to visit schools and talk to kids and hopefully inspire at least one kid out of that room to have an impact in their life where maybe, they'll come out one day and cure cancer or some other remarkable thing. And teachers have an amazing gift and opportunity where you never know when your lesson ends or how the impact you'll have with the people in your life. So I'm still very focused on that. And Art, talking about higher math and all that, I'm looking forward to studying all these wonderful things. But I really feel like I found my calling, and I'm using my gift for good. And it's a passion that drives me every day to do what I'm doing, even though it's against what 99% of math teachers teach out there right now, and it's an uphill battle. But I feel like I have no quit in me because I so understand and believe in what I'm doing. So, it's just fun. I love what I do, so it makes it easy.
Yeah, that's clear. Wildcard Line, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hi, it's Larry Roberts calling from Central Florida. Hey, just had a question. I'm absolutely fascinated by what I've been listening to tonight. I really tried to stay away from numerology because it seemed like people were making things fit with numbers. But after listening to your story, I know numbers are language. And I just got to thinking about some things. This may mean nothing, it may be something, but I was just thinking as I was listening to you. Scott, my birthday's 1954, which is 14th. I'm born the 14th day of the month, which is 9. And I know numbers are connected in the Bible and as a language. Does that mean anything? Is there any connection to that? And then I was going to ask also, what's your website address again, so I can pull down that information of the calendar for the crop circles?
Okay. Well, I have a couple websites. thehumancalendar.com, and my website is humancalculator.com or scottflansburgh.com. They're all there. So you can find out more there. And as far as your first part with the 14th day in 1954, no, I don't see any connections or anything like that. And something I go by is our newspapers every day have a horoscope, and there's only 12 of them in there. There's 300 million Americans. There's 12 horoscopes. That means 25 million people are having the same day, and that just seems incredibly statistically impossible.
First time caller line, your turn with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hi, Art.
Yes.
Hi, this is Matt from Dayton, Tennessee. Appreciate your call. I wanted to ask Scott if he knew about the folding of the $20 bill.
Well, yeah, you talked about it earlier.
Yeah. If you turn it around, fold it in the same way, it depicts the smoke coming out, if you have your imagination, of the Pentagon also.
Yeah, split in half, burning.
Okay.
Right, yeah, and it's funny because the airplane that hit that one hit the ground, supposedly, and it's just funny that you have to flip the airplane of the $20 bill over to see that.
Okay. Wildcard line, let's go here. You're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
How's it going, Art?
Okay, sir.
Well, I've been wanting to talk to you for about the last 11 years.
Well, here you are.
I got a comment and I got a question. My comment is, my dad was a CPA, and he taught me a really neat trick, or should I say a trick, but a formula on how to do percentages. And I was just wondering how that works out with your math.
Well, accountants use a lot of checks and things like that, but no, the only thing that accountants use that I was familiar with is a nines check. Did he show you that?
No. Well, what he would do with percentages, he would take, like, let's say 30% of 100, and that's just a real simple one. You just take 10% of 100, that'd be 10% plus the 3. You get the 1% of 100, which would be 1, and then times 3, and that'd be 3. So you add that 10 plus the 3, and that'd be the 13%. And that was his formula. He told me just always use 10 as a base, and then if it was an odd one, like a 17% or 18%, you can just multiply that times 7 or times 8 or whatever it may be, and you can get the answer that way.
Mm-hmm.
And it just worked out really easy.
Yes, and I do division and fractions and percentages and all that, and it's just a reverse multiplication problem for me. I just flip the numbers around and do the math. So it's just in how you ask the question, really, that makes it easier to figure out the percentages. And I know the proper strategies and approaches to a percentage problem that maximize my efficiency.
Okay.
All right, caller, thank you very much. Let's go to the international line, and I think all the way to this side of the world in South Korea. Hello.
Hello, Mr. Bell. This is Al in Korea.
Hi.
Got a little quick conversion thing I do that you might find handy if they use Celsius there in the Philippines. But when they have a Celsius temperature, what I do is I just add a 0 to it and then take the number and subtract it. In other words, let's say it's like 20 degrees Celsius.
Mm-hmm.
So I add a 0, and that becomes 200, and then I subtract the 20, which becomes 180, divide that by 5, and then take the sum and add 32, and boom, you got 68.
Wow, that's a lot of work.
Do you have an easier way?
Well,
I do. I go to Google, and I put in Celsius and Fahrenheit, and it gives you a little conversion table.
Well,
well, I got a key out over here, and it's got the little button you push. It tells you the outside temperature, right? And a lot of times I'll push the button that says like 16 Celsius or 21 Celsius. And, I'm an American. I just can't convert. That means absolutely nothing to me. So I got to convert it into Fahrenheit.
Well, just a easy way to do that conversion is just double the number and add 30. The exact formula is 1.8 times and add 32. Multiply the Celsius times 1.8 and then add 32. So you said 20. So if you did 20 times 1.8, you'd get 36, and then you add.
Wait a minute. Say it again for me, because I'm converting Celsius all the time. Double the number and add 32. Is that correct?
Well, double it and add 30. It's rounding
30.
it off. The exact formula, Art, is 1.8. So you multiply let's do 20 Celsius. So you do 20 times 1.8, and that gives you 36. And then you add 32, which is 68. So let's do the 20 with the way I said. Just double the first double it and add 30, and you end up at 70 degrees. So it's always within a couple of degrees of the temperatures that we experience usually.
But that gets you the ballpark. That's easier.
Yeah, double it and add 30. And, when I'm traveling overseas, that's all I do. I don't need to know it's exactly 71.5 degrees or anything, but, I need to know what to wear.
Yeah, what I do, like when I drive up to Seoul, is the Koreans, their license plate have 4 digits, and just a lot of times because I'm bored, is I'll take the first 2 numbers and then last 2 numbers and see how fast I can convert them as I'm driving. Maybe that's a little dangerous.
Well, that's a good example, but I'd like to give you another opportunity to exercise the muscle in your brain that you're trying to do there, and it's just a simple pattern. And you see any number and just add up its digits and subtract that total from the number you're looking at. And the answer you get will always be a number that adds up to 9. So all the
9,
listeners,
yeah, I noticed that.
Right. So all the
9
listeners,
everywhere.
all the listeners, just for fun, think of how old you are. Just think of your age, and add the digits of your age together, and subtract that total from your age, and you'll get a number that adds up to 9, and it will never let you down. So just for fun, I'm 42, and you just go 4 and 2. That adds up to 6, and you do 42 minus 6. And that gives you a 36. 3 plus 6 equals 9.
Yeah,
works for every number in the universe.
First-time caller line. Wow. You're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hi, this is Paul from Moreno Valley, California. And I had a comment and a question. My first comment was that numbers have always come naturally to me, and like adding and that. And in math classes, of course, I got a lot of flack for it and that kind of thing. And I think Scott's method really does work. I mean, until he explained it right now, I never understood it. But my question is having to do with music. On a staff of music, like a treble clef, you have 5 lines and 4 spaces, which is 9. And when you have a full grand staff, you will have the middle C line, so that's 11 lines. So I was wondering about the relationship between music, like 7 notes and, with lines and all that kind of stuff, and what that could mean possibly.
Well, I'm very blessed that one of my best friends in the world is Alice Cooper, and he's all about music, and he calls himself the anti-math guy. He could care less about math, but he loves music, obviously, and he knows that, when we first met and started playing golf and became friends, that was one of the most common topics is that music is all math, and why don't I sit down and learn how to do music? And I've learned a lot about music since then from him and his friends, but I always get confused. Why do they use the letters for music, A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Why not use numbers? Well, I would prefer 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, obviously, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because if I say, how many notes is it from B to G, our brain has to translate that and take an extra step to figure out how many that is. But if it was just numbers, you could instantly figure that out, the spatial dimension of music. So it would make it easier for most people to learn.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm working on, music math, but it's not going over big, so I'm not really spending much time on it.
All right, time is short. Wildcard line, you're on the air with Scott Flansburgh. Hi.
Hi, Art?
Yes.
Listen, you know what? You keep me up at night.
Good, I think.
Well, listen, Scott, you said something earlier this evening in reference to having the right frequency, like tuning into a radio station, and you related that to vocal. I wanted to ask you, would you happen to know if chanting causes a frequency or an anomaly like the crop circle?
I do. I do have some belief in that, because when I do performances and I'm going to do some serious mental math, I go into a zone and nothing disturbs me. I can have things happening around me, people talking, whatever, and I can still instantly calculate days of the week and all these other things. And so I believe it creates a vibration, an energy that allows me to do that without distraction. And it's no different than any athlete you see performing. When they get in the zone, there's nothing that can get in their way or stop them. And the biggest thing that gets in our way is ourselves. We distract ourselves with so many things going on. So I somehow tune that all out.
There is indeed that zone. I know exactly what you're talking about. And when you're there, nothing can touch you.
0, not one thing.
Well, very interesting. Thank you.
You got
it. You're very welcome. Take care. We might have time for one more wild card line. You're on the air. Hello.
Hi, on that centigrade, the Fahrenheit to centigrade.
Yes.
I believe the right form, if I remember junior high school or middle school correctly, is 9/5 or 5/9 times the number you have, either plus or minus 32. But I don't remember which set of factors goes with which conversion. So
you said it right.
A mathematician can straighten you out on that.
Well, you just said it right. 9/5 is 1.8. That's what we were talking about earlier, and you do add 32 to the Celsius.
Yeah, you were just laying down an easier sort of general method for us. East of the Rockies, you're on the air last, I think, with Scott Flansburgh. Hello.
Hello, East of the Rockies?
That's you.
Oh, good. Scott, a book, Theomatics.
I've read it.
By Del Washburn. Theomatics.
And there's also Theomatics 2.
Yes, Theomatics 2. And the website, theomatics.com. It'll explain all of the Greek and Hebrew number systems and how everything in the Bible is scientifically provable.
Well, and I'd like to say that, I didn't go into the Bible and get transformed by the words. The numbers and the patterns really blew me away and almost sold me into the dimensions of the Bible that I didn't believe existed at one time.
Okay, my friend, listen.
I read as well. It was very interesting.
All right. Scott, we're out of time. You have a gift. You're a wonderful guy. I want to thank you for being here. Obviously, we will do it again.
Thank you for the time, Art.
Good night, Scott.
Good night.
All right, folks, there you have it. That's Scott Flansburgh, the human calculator. This has been a fascinating night. Tomorrow night, Dr. Stephen Greer, who made quite a stir the last time he was on. But for now, for this night, I'm Art Bell from Manila in the Philippines. You all have a good day, night, or whatever it is. Good night, all.